This is a victory for the people of Nakao. It's not just a victory for Senyonyi Joel. And the reason I say that is because the people of Nakao West were told, no, Senyonyi, one, he's young, two, he doesn't have experience in politics, and they agreed, just like I agree. I was the youngest in the race. Of all the people in the race, I was the least qualified politically. I was the least experienced. But the people of Nakao West said, look, even a child grows up eventually, and Senyo is 34 years old, he can ably represent us. And they also went ahead to say that experience is attained. Everybody begins somewhere. Yes, I was 14 years in the media and not in politics, but I can start to ably represent them. So I'm delighted that they have made this choice.
For any person who we hurt or wronged during the campaigns, we please apologize and do not take it in bad faith. I know we can work together to unite our country, whereby we wish all of you a peaceful election in the continuing cycle. Come the elections of the Lord Mayor and the elections of Local Council 3. May the good Lord be with you all, and thank you very much.
Many supporters of Kaziwe Bashir, who is standing for Kawempe North, were very discontented and almost broke into a fight where the security operatives had to come and intervene in the process. The EC was also almost lynched because many supporters from the National Unity Platform that came with Kaziwe Bashir weren't contented with the results.
Polling station mu Kawempe North ne Kawempe South tusazeewo tujjeko omwendaze batalina balangireze bakafuna tuve wano tubaade dakika 2 returning officer babeera nga tannasalawo kulangira seddirira banga tetutunda.
Segirinya Muhammad is another candidate that is standing for Kawempe South and who is also very discontented with how the EC is handling things according to him. He says he had a landslide victory and yet the EC hasn't yet announced any of his results. Now what happened is that he says that all the DR forms that they have show that he actually emerged as the winner because in all the polling stations that they had, he had a 99% count of how much he won. But what happens is that he says that they agreed with the EC to make sure that they announce from the DR forms that they have without opening the ballot boxes, which EC wasn't contented with and hasn't even done to date.
I won with 98% because I won all polling stations in Kawempe North. So there is no way you can say that you are going to open some boxes and do a recount. We cannot allow, yet we have the copies. The copies are with me here. The one they are saying that for them they don't have it, and even the Electoral Commission agents signed on these other forms. So I don't know what they are trying to do, but I'm still very peaceful.
More security was actually asked to come through to make sure that the place is still safe and sound for all the others that are part of the process. Sharon Shomjisha, UBC News.
All right, now we've seen some of the winners of Thursday's polls. We did see newcomers into the system, the likes of Joel Senyonyi, who he did say that he is new to this. He has no experience whatsoever coming into the system. But also we did see the old coming back as well. Tony Kent, what do you think about the results that were laid yesterday evening?
Well, it's quite interesting. First and foremost, good night and good morning to you, our dear viewer, watching us on UBC TV right about now. Well, what I think about the results is quite so simple. It's a portrayal of what the people want, what the people have said, and just like we have that Latin phrase, Vox Populi, Vox Dei, it could be the voice of the people, the voice of God, but in this case, it's the voice of the people, the ballot they casted. And just to probably give us a bit of a heads up, Soroti district has already gotten us some confirmed results. Anna Adeke Ebaju of FDC has won the woman member of parliament seat, beating Leah Amigo of NRM. And in the same regard, getting into Soroti City, woman MP, Achom Joan of FDC has managed to beat Akope Caroline Ayisu, an independent. These are all confirmed results from the Electoral Commission, whilst the Member of Parliament for Soroti City East has come out as Moses Atana of FDC, managing to beat Herbert Ariko Edmund, who happens to be an independent. In the same regard, Soroti has the western side, which is Soroti City West, and of course in this one, Ebualu Jonathan, an independent, has overcome Echodu John Calvin of the NRM. So basically, that is just a bit of a glimpse of Soroti City. You could as well share with us a couple of those that you have before we can continue.
All right, now if we take a look at the Bududa, we did see Agnes Nandutu coming in as an independent, scooping about 27,000. Now, if we all remember, Agnes Nandutu is actually a journalist. So this is some good news for us in the journalism field. And then in Manjia County, we did see John Baptist Nambeshe, that is from the NUP, scooping 9,990 votes. And then when we look at the Luseshe County, we see Isaac Mudoy from the NRM scooping 9,861. Now this, I must say, was a very close margin from his opponent, that is Geoffrey Wantega, independent, and he scooped about 9,148 votes. Now if we can take a look at Bulambuli District, we do see Irene Muloni from NRM scooping 28,978 votes. And now for the Elgon County, we do see Nasio Mudini from NRM scooping 9,213 votes, of course winning. Then we also look at the Elgon County North. We do see an independent Gerald Nangoli scooping 15,753 votes. Now if we can take a look at the Fort Portal City Woman MP, this is a newcomer here, Linda Irene scooping 22,573 votes, now beating the incumbent, that is Sylvia Rabogo, who scored 7,373 votes. Fort Portal North Division, we saw Margaret Muhanga Mugisa scooping 7,911 votes and beating, of course, her opponent, that is Ruhundwa Solomon, with 7,820 votes. Fort Portal Central Division, we did see Ruhunda Alex scooping 11,019 votes, beating Ajuna Daka Joseph with 8,190 votes. Now the Entebbe municipality, we saw Salongo Kakembo Michael from the NUP scooping 12,528 votes, beating Stephen Shaka Kasaija, 8,795. Kabarole District Woman MP, we saw Victoria Businje Rusoke scooping 44,553 votes, beating Kobugabe Lillian with 15,156 votes. Now let's take a look at Burahia County. We see Kagwera Stephen with 32,365 votes, beating Charles Mpaji with 16,660. Now the northern region, that is Gulu District, Achua County, Simon Peter Okorach taking 6,392 votes, beating Okello Patrick with 5,855. Gulu Woman MP, we see Lakar Sharon Balmoi taking 6,698 votes, beating Okello Goretti Odoki with 4,283 votes. Let's take a look at the Bundiwujo region. We see Bemoni Babunji Joseph taking 36,594 votes, beating with a close margin Harriet Ntabazi with 35,222 votes. Now we're definitely here to give you all the updates of what transpired throughout Friday. And we are giving you some of the results that did, of course, come through. Tony Kent, Chaze, if you can also give us a couple of more results that did come through in the day, we'd definitely be glad to hear them from you. Tony Kent.
Thank you so much, Laureen. And of course, I'm having with me what is coming in from Katakwi district, and in specificity, the Ngariam County. We do see Honorable Ogwang Peter of the NRM has managed to take that particular one with a record score of 16,278 votes, beating Otuko Augustine, an independent, who only managed to score 1,954. Crossing over to Namutumba, woman MP, it is Mariam Naigaga of NRM has overcome Konko Mpongo Betty, an independent, and of course the margin was quite so interesting. 32,390 votes it was for Mariam Naigaga, whilst Konko Mpongo Betty, the independent candidate, only managed 25,607. Crossing over to Bukono constituency, Pasis Namuganza of the NRM has been confirmed victor, narrowly winning against Emma Maganda, an independent. The score, or probably the tally, gave Pasis Namuganza a 10,955 mark, whilst her compatriot Emma Maganda scored 10,370. Getting into Busiki North, Kayongera Yona of NRM has beaten Asifansa Mpongo, an independent, and getting into Busiki constituency, Paulo Akamba has also managed to trounce Fred Kasisi, an independent. And of course, when I use the terminology trounce, it's because Paulo Akamba has managed to score 19,470 tallies, or that is votes, whilst Fred Kasisi only managed 8,174. Into Moroto, where I'm not so sure Laureen has been before. Moroto, have you been there?
No, unfortunately I haven't. I'm yet to canvass that area as well.
But hopefully you'll be definitely. Woman MP for Moroto Municipality, Atiang Stella comes out victor with an 18,978 score over Apio Lucy's 3,147. And of course, into the Matheniko County, we see Loki John has come out on top, scoring 6,794, whilst Olo Paul, the second compatriot therein, only managed 6,602. Within Moroto still, there is Moroto Municipality, and the Member of Parliament for Moroto Municipality is now confirmed as Adome Francis. Well, this one was a little tricky because it's just by a few figures, a score of 50.31% for Adome Francis, and that is a tally of 1,935 votes against Angela Fred, who managed 1,911 votes. Now, this particular percentage for Angela Fred is a 49.69%. In Tepeth County, Local Albert came out on top with a score of 65.7%, whilst Riyama Margaret, who came in second, managed a 22.15%. Remember, these all have been confirmed by the Electoral Commission, and as we share them with you, it is basically those members that you will have representing you in those various sections of the points or the parts of the country they do represent. I have about 3 more interesting confirmations from Bufumbira East. Dr. James Nsababuturo of the NRM has managed to win this particular one, overcoming Roland Kamia, and his score was 17,418 votes against Roland Kamia's 3,826. But getting down to Bufumbira South, Engineer Alex Niyonsaba Seruganda of the NRM has managed to beat Sam Bitangaro, an independent, and the margin you can actually calculate. Alex Niyonsaba Seruganda tallied 22,423 votes, whilst Sam Bitangaro tallied 18,691. And of course, in Bufumbira North, John Kamara Nizeimana has tallied 7,357 votes, managing to win this particular seat, as of course opposed to Apuli Byaruhanga, who came in second with 4,292. Lauren,
yep.
Before I come to you, there is an interesting start already, because before we went into these particular elections, the NRM had already registered a couple of confirmed positions, that is for Member of Parliament. Well, just to mention a few of those is Honorable Frank Tumwebaze, that is Kamwenje, Pius Wakabi, Bugahia County, Emily Kugonza, Buyanja East, there is Enoch Nyonjwe of Nakaseke, Semwanga Javira of Buyamba County, Hilary Rokong of Ike County, Jackson Karugaba Kafuzi of Chaka County, Among Anita of Bukedea County, Paparu Lilian Obare of Arua, Mary Begumisa of, that is Woman MP for Sembabule, and as well Ingnia Kuthbat Abigaba Mirembe of Chibale County, just to mention but a few. I don't know what that makes you feel about this particular election, but the NRM came into this already victorious and having a bit of bragging rights, and it looks to be Parliament so far, in as far as the political party dispensation and the distribution is concerned, will have still yet again a large number of members of Parliament for the NRM.
Well, I totally agree with you, Kent. Looking at also, you know, this time around it's a little bit different. Or the campaigns have been scientific, and well, yes, the voting, yes, has been a little bit scientific. But of course, nonetheless, we want to, well, give a big congratulations to all those, you know, who got the parliamentary seat. But before we get into more of the results, the woman member of parliament elect Napak district, Nakut Faith, has called on the politicians who have won and lost in the general elections to preach peace and avoid inciting the public. The first-time MP contesting on the NRM ticket garnered 20,795 votes, trouncing the incumbent MP Namoy Stella, who garnered 15,181 votes. Namoy contested as an independent candidate after losing Nakut in the NRM primaries. Take a look.
Thank you for giving me the audience. My name is Nakut Faith Loru Chuna. I'm a born of this district, but also married here. So, politically, I have not been in an elective politics before. So this time, it was the first time for me to get into an elective politics personally. Previously, I used to support some candidates, but to be in an elective politics is the first time. The experience in campaigns has been good. I have enjoyed moving to the field. Although this is my district, I had never been to every part of this district, except during the campaign season. So at least I think I covered more than 90% during the campaign. I reached every corner and to understand how people have been living. So I have a better understanding of their lives.
You've said you've interacted with the local community here. You've covered almost 90% of the district. What will be the most critical issues that you probably hit the road and be focused in tackling?
There are many issues in this district, but I will start with a few. Currently we have insecurity that is returning to Karamoja. There are some people who have their guns. I have to work with the military to ensure that peace is restored. Our people, in some villages I visited, they were commuting from other villages or from nearby schools to come back and cook from their homes, then go and sleep in the schools because they can no longer sleep. So that one is something urgent that government should do. So my job as a leader, when I go to parliament, because I will be raised to a position of honor, I will have to speak to my people so that they expose those who might be having their guns, and also so that they may not think of revenge. We have had people dying and they are bitter, so that revenge is ruled out. So I will speak to my people on that. I will also engage the security personnel to see how we can improve their response mechanism. Then on all other stakeholders, other leaders in Karamoja, so that they do the same which I'll be doing to my people, that is on security. On education, there is a crisis in my district. The UBOS statistics put our school retention rate at 5%. So that means over 95% of our children do not go to school. So I have a job, and a serious one. One, to do a campaign from the villages, because the teachers in some places I went to, the teachers complained that even without the coronavirus, there were no pupils in school. So that means there is a problem. So I want to engage the parents to encourage them to send their children to school, because I'm looking at 20 years, 30 years of NAPAC. What will the future be like for our people if they are not studying?
Lastly, what will be your message for Ugandans? Because there has been an issue of, there are people saying there's politicians who are saying, in case we lose, we have plan B. Of course, you've heard about Kampala, tension, others planning. It looks like there are those ones who are planning to cause chaos, probably after losing, or maybe or something like that. So what would be your message to this political class?
Okay, to the politicians like me, I want to encourage them to accept the results. There is no reason to force citizens to vote you. If you have sold out your plan, you've sold out your manifesto, and they do not vote you, there is no reason. There will be another 5 years and another election. In 5 years' time, you can try your luck there. There is no reason to despair, to cry or to mourn. But if it is about the people, then why should we think that it has to be me? It has to be me. If it's not me, then we are dead. If it's not me, then we are banning Uganda. No, we should not bring down our country. We should look at, Uganda is for us. So if we want to destroy this country, are we going to gain just because of an election? We are not gaining anything by killing Ugandans. There is no added value. By banning the street because you have not been voted in, there is no added value. That's what I want to tell these candidates who are contesting all over the country. What do you gain? Is it for Uganda that you're contesting, or for yourself? Because if it is for Uganda, then you will not bring down the country. You will accept the results. I want to plead with them to accept the results. Yeah. So that we all grow this country. There will be another election. If there were gaps in the campaign, because you did not campaign properly, we have other 5 years. We have 5 years. You can prepare for the next election adequately so that you can campaign properly and reach everyone. Also, we should learn to trust the decision of Ugandans. They have brains. When people go to that basin to make their decision, I told my voters in NAPAC that when you're making that decision in that basin, it's only you and your God and the country. You know what you are doing for Uganda as you make the decision. So let's learn to trust that they have the brains to make the right choice for this country.
All right, that is the new elect NAPAC district woman MP, Nakut Faith, of course, preaching peace and also encouraging all those that won and lost to, preach peace, remain peaceful and calm and not incite violence in the public. Maybe, Kent, I just want to commend all the Ugandans for maintaining and keeping peace in the country. We had so many stories that this was going to happen, that would happen, Uganda would be burnt down. But the good thing about Ugandans is that they maintained peace while voting, and also after receiving the results of, those that won their parliamentary seats. And well, big ups to all Ugandans for maintaining peace and security. Remember, you are on UBC television at the UBC Election Hub. We are giving you updates on what transpired yesterday throughout the day and giving you some of the results that have come through the directly elected MPs. Now, we take a look at the Bwamba County. We did see Richard Gababusa taking 27,202 votes, winning Dr. Kamanda Bataringaya, who's garnered 12,732 votes. Now we look at the Mityana district. We saw Joyce Bagala scooping 64,305 votes, beating Judith Nabakova, who scored 48,078 votes. Now, the Mityana municipality, so Francis Zake scooped 23,997 votes, beating John Mary Bugembe, who scored 6,590. Now, taking a look at Mityana North, Kipedi Nsegumire scooped 13,852 votes, winning by a very close margin. That is Dr. Sematiko Gordon with 13,581 votes. Now, Mityana South, so Luwu Richard scooped 9,252 votes, beating Kazungu Apollo, who scored 3,377 votes. Now, the Busuju constituency, so David Luchamuzi Karyanga scooping 19,174 votes, beating Nyanzi Vincent, who scooped 10,198 votes. Let's take a look at the Ntungamo municipality. We did see Yona Musinguzi, the NRM ticket, scooping 19,530 votes, beating Gerard Karuhanga on the ANT ticket with 2,422 votes. All right, Kent, you can give us more updates on your side.
Well, thank you so much, Lauren. I can actually confirm I have two particular districts with confirmed results from those two. That is Alebtong district and Oyam district. Well, starting it off with Alebtong district, we do see for woman member of parliament, Dakas Achen has taken this particular one, defeating Christine Ayo, who was the closest contender therein. Dakas Achen has tallied 28,874 votes, while Christine Ayo only managed 17,052 votes in that particular regard. In Ajuri County, which is still Alebtong district, Obua Dennis Hamson has managed 11,796 votes, whilst Ongom Emmanuel Okwel tallied 10,612. And of course, this means that Honorable Dennis Obua Hamson is actually the Ajuri County MP starting this day, 4th. Moroto County sees Okwil Samuel coming out on top with 17,703 votes against Olang Patrick's 9,874. One thing I can let you know, all those with the highest of numbers of votes, or rather the tallies, will be from this time forth titled Honorable Members of Parliament. Crossing to Oyam District, we do see for the woman member of Parliament, Alum Santa Sandra Ogwang of the UPC, that is probably one person that Jagenda Zikusoka is well versed with, has tallied 90,380, a record score here, beating Achayo Santa of the NRM, who only tallied 9,378. Quite an impressive victory there for Alum Santa Sandra Ogwang of the Uganda People's Congress. And of course, continuing with a bit of those other confirmed results coming in from Oyam District. Looking at what there is from Oyam County South. Among Betty of the Uganda People's Congress has actually tallied 27,024 votes, defeating Queen Dorothy Amolo, who came on the independent ticket and only managed to tally 14,883 votes. Then, of course, when you do cross to the northern part of Oyam district, which is Oyam County North, Okello Charles Patrick Engola of the NRM has taken this particular one, tallying 22,895 votes. And of course, this comes as a defeat for Apio Eunice of the UPC, and this in particular gave Apio Eunice a tally of 17,114. Lorraine, before I get back to you, you do realize the UPC has actually come back a little. Probably they have about 10 members of parliament that are typically UPC, and then 3 independent-leaning members. Probably that you'd say is a total of 13. Not so bad, wow. But of course we wonder what happened back then in the golden ages of the 80s. Why is it not happening now? You remember as well, they did not field a presidential candidate, courtesy of the fracas that there was within the party, the UPC, over the presidency, and who was the legitimate president of the UPC. Back to you, Lorraine.
Well, that is very impressive right there. Now, if I could just finalize with the Ayivu West constituency, we did see Lematia John on the NRM ticket scooping 11,269 votes. And then Ayivu East constituency, so Feta Geoffrey also on the NRM ticket scooping 10,431 votes, beating Vutia Simon on the independent ticket with 5,022 votes. Now, if we can just look at the just concluded provisional presidential results right here. Now, we see, of course, the NRM presidential candidate, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, scooping 4,340,134 votes. That is at a tally of 62.0%. And then we also see the NUP presidential candidate, that is Robert Chagulanyi Sentamu, with 2,164,347 votes at a percentage of 30.9%. All right, now let's move on to on the independent ticket, Henry Tumukunde scooping 37,705 votes. That is at a percentage of 0.5%. And if we can also take a look at the only female, I would say, who stood for president this time around, and of course giving us the women a very good hurrah. She scooped at 28,492 votes. That is on a percentage of 0.41%. Now, if we can take a look at the FDC presidential candidate, that is Poa Patrick Muriat, right there. Well, we see him at 3.64%, and of course scooping 254,628 votes this time around. I would say he didn't do that bad, but also moving on, if we can also look at another independent presidential candidate. William Mayambala scooped 11,218 votes right there on a percentage of 0.16%. Very chatty gentleman right there, and also very friendly as well. Let's look at another independent candidate, and that is Katumba Oye. This is John Katumba, scooping 23,965 votes at a percentage of 0.3%. Okay, let's look at Pastor Fred Mwesije. Well, he did stand on an independent ticket. He scooped 19,000 452 votes at a percentage of 0.3%. All right, on the DP ticket, Norbert Mao scooping 45,590 votes, of course, with a percentage of 0.7%. And on the ANT ticket, yes, we do have Mugisha Muti right here with 41,867 votes right there, with a percentage of 0.6%. And I think I should finalize with an independent candidate, Joseph Kabaleta. He scooped 34,955 votes with a percentage of 0.5%. Now, taking a look at the different candidates, this is the just concluded provisional presidential results we got from, of course, the National Tally Center in Chambogo. Do make sure to keep it locked to UBC television. I will be giving you more updates on what is transpiring, of course, right here on the UBC Election Hub. Well, Kent, I think that should be it for now. But if we look at, you know, the way things are playing out, you know, in the beginning of the results, it was quite scary. Actually, yesterday night I was watching television and I was a little bit, should I say, scared or excited? Is it anxiety at the end of the day, you know, when the results were coming in? But of course, looking at what we have right here, not too bad. What do you think? How was the energy, your ends?
Probably, I might anticipate why you got scared, because probably one of those that you very much love, the Oye man, might have been ahead of people like Norbert Mao and a couple of others. But anyway, we had a bit of a light discussion with a colleague of mine today while he's executing the radio assignments. And the whole bit of question, rather the whole bit of discussion rotated around the fact that these presidential candidates were able to collect signatures to endorse them for this kind of assignment. Surprisingly,
yes,
many are yet to tally the equivalent of the signatures that push them to this particular kind of well, of course, Jagenda is telling us something from the backside of our studio, and of course, that is another interesting one. But of course, Laureen, I think in all, we have had a very peaceful tally. We have totally had a very peaceful process, and I'm hoping that going forward, maybe let's say 2026 or maybe 2031, we shall see the same kind of procession, and this will be the precedent we shall look to when we are into that kind of timing.
All right. All right, so for now we are getting to a very short break, but of course when we do come back, actually I want to say, Kent, thank you so much for your company. You know, in this cold times, we definitely need a little bit of excitement here and there. But thank you so much for your company, Tony Kent. We're going for a very short break, but when we come back, Jagenda will take you through, and the team will take you through the rest of the morning with more updates for the rest of the morning. So thank you so much for your company. Have yourself a lovely morning. I'm Laureen Masika Kazimoto. Good night.
Uganda is the only home you have. You do not want to be a refugee in another country. The peace of Uganda is in your hands.
The Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries hereby informs the public that following reports of the fish deaths on Lake Victoria and Kyoga, samples of fish and water were picked from a number of landing sites for laboratory analysis. Final results from the 3 laboratories have ruled out poisoning as a cause of fish deaths. Rather, it is a result of environmental factors. Members of the public are advised to bury the dead fish. The ministry further reassures the public that the fish from the regular catches are safe for consumption.
My fellow countrymen, my name is Robert Kayanja. I'm a pastor and a preacher of the gospel. I was born in 1962 in January, and this wonderful country was born in 1962 in October. So we are really like twins. I love Uganda. I love the fauna. I love the mountains, the hills, and I love the people of Uganda. We are resilient. We are wonderful people. I want to pray for you because today is a special day when we elect our leaders. And I'm praying for the peace of this country and the tranquility. We've just continued. Soon we're going to finish 120 days of fasting as we've been praying for this country. But you know what? The grace of God is upon this nation. We have a mandate as a country. For God and my country, it's not just a cliche or a motto. It is the force that drives this country to become better. 30 years ago or more, God gave us the peace, and our peace is non-negotiable. And God has allowed this democracy to grow. And I'm grateful because this democracy, we are seeing it today. In this election today, be reminded, we have the oldest candidate and the youngest candidate. It can only happen in Uganda when a 23-year-old is eyeing for the highest office in the country. And yet, also the old man is still vying and presenting his manifesto for this country. It only happens in Uganda. We are the most privileged people. Please, I pray, don't violate this wonderful democracy that God has given us. It may not be perfect, and it may be young, but we are going somewhere. So I wish you the best, and I'm praying for you that God will protect you and keep you, Uganda, and we will be the power of Africa. Heavenly Father, in the name of Jesus Christ of Nazareth, as Ugandans are casting their votes, may your great hand be upon us. May your spirit be upon us. May we continue to be a nation of progress. May you protect our armed forces, the army, the police, the prisons, and the security guards. May you protect every Ugandan. My Father, as we cast our votes, may you protect us and defend us from COVID-19. My Father, bless our nation with the best of agriculture, with the best of innovation, and with the best of the land. And when the elections results come out, let us accept the results, because we know it would have been done by us, Ugandans. We thank you, Lord, because your Holy Spirit guides us and keeps us, and you continue to put your hand upon our nation. In Jesus' mighty name, amen.
Well, thank you so much. A very good morning. Welcome to UBC TV at the Election Hub here on UBC TV. This particular morning, it's just a few minutes after 1 o'clock, and we just heard the provisional results there from Justice Byabakama Mujenyi. We thank you so much that you've chosen to be with UBC, and we are also delivering on the promise. We told you we'll be with you until later this afternoon. Now, we only just counting hours. We left about, with just about close to 10, 11 hours for the Electoral Commission to finally declare who the winner for this year's presidential elections is now. That will be the president-elect, and we wait. The next election will come on again in 2026, but this is now where we are today. Well, we thank you so much, and from the latest that we just got, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni is still leading at 61.98%, and that is a tally of 4.134 votes, and Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu of the National Unity Platform coming on second with 2,164,347, which translates into 30.91%. Now, I will start it from here. When we had Professor Vanessius Variamureba on the 2nd of November, the day President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni nominated, Professor Variamureba predicted that President Museveni will win this election with a margin of 60%. He actually predicted a 60.3%, and Kyagulanyi coming on with 30 or slightly above 31%, but he said 90% of this vote will be shared between President Museveni and Kyagulanyi. Now, the 10% goes to all the other candidates, plus the spoiled and invalid votes. Joining me this morning is James Mutut, Cole Amazima, and Timothy Sibasi. I'll start with Timothy Sibasi. You're very welcome. Good morning, and here is where we are today.
Good morning to you, Comrade Chagenda.
Here is where we are today. What do you make of the latest pronouncement by Justice Byabakama Mujenyi?
Well, it's quite very interesting what we are watching. I've been following up the percentages as they were streaming in since last night. There've been them dropping and increasing, dropping and increasing. Like from yesterday when we started following up these percentages. So remember, incumbent President Yoweri Museveni was at around 60%, while Kyagulanyi was at about 27%. Later as the day went on, and we saw President Museveni came to about 63, then he later went to 65, but now he has come down to 61.98%. Kyagulanyi yesterday was at about 27. He went to 28.
He's risen to 30.
Now he's at 30.9%. Quite very interesting, and the others in that category. So I'm convinced the Electoral Commission is doing a good job.
Okay, well, that's very important. Akol, I'm happy to see you, and first also tell me what you think and what you feel about the latest that has just come from the National Tally Center. Before we get another one, which I think will be the 8th presidential provisional results pronouncement at 9 o'clock this morning. Tell me what you feel and what you make of the statistics that we just got.
Well, good morning, viewer. But my really feeling is that the situation is going to be like this. It's going to be calm until they announce the final results. Because I imagine, actually, the situation would be tense if perhaps they were sharing these votes. That you find maybe the one leading is having 30%, the other one is at 20%, that there's no one with a clear win. I think that now the situation would be more tense, and perhaps there would be now talk behind the scenes of how alliances for the rerun will be building up. But of course now with this kind of results, I think the whole thing is calm, and of course I'm sure that more than 50% of the results actually have been read. But also that said, from the results we are seeing of members of parliament, it is actually clear that NRM is having a comfortable lead.
We will actually come to members of parliament much later, because those by this time actually There's no dispute on many of them. Those are clear. They've been declared and they're there, and so we now call them MP elects. They're already in. Mututa, make a sense of what Justice Byabakama has just given to us as the latest 7th provisional results pronouncement.
Since yesterday, I've been looking at these figures, but I seem to believe that we are not going to have any surprises in terms of dropping like from 60 to 40 or to 50 or 30 to 50. There could be a few adjustments up and down here and there, but we are not going to have a lot of radical changes in these figures. And because as of now, I think we have gone to about beyond 40 of the total vote.
Oh, no, it's about, I think, 65 or 66 even.
Exactly.
Yeah, because we only left with a deficit of 10,600 polling stations of the 34,000 polling stations. So far, the results coming in are from 23,997. So that's
which makes about
65%.
Exactly.
So we left with only 10,000 polling stations to conclude.
So I think we are not going to have a lot of radical changes in the figures as they appear. I mean, in the percentages as they appear, and like one had predicted 60, 30, then the rest will
Professor
share.
Yeah, then he will become an expert. I will respect him more.
Then the rest will share the 10%, and ironically, the 10% will also include the spoiled votes. And
which might
be more than someone.
Not just someone. the spoiled and invalid votes will combine about 6 or 7 candidates.
Yeah.
Yes, and will be more than those.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. So I'm looking at that such a situation, and that being the case, I think we will continue being peaceful until the end of the exercise.
Okay, we talked about the voter turn-up, which was very impressive when we went into the polls on the 14th. We all talked about this. And what we're seeing coming in through from the Electoral Commission is that when you talk about 23,997 polling stations, and we're talking about 7.28 million voters yet. Now, from the remaining 10,600 polling stations, do you think we will have another about 5 million or 6 million votes? Because look at the tally of 18 million voters, and so far we are talking about 7.28, and we just left with 10,000 polling stations. Do you think the 10,000 polling stations can actually give us another maybe 7 million voters? Is that possible, to raise the numbers to maybe 13 or 14 million voters, Mututa?
I'm suspecting that we may go a little higher than last time to about 10 million voters this time, because much as the voter turnout has been increased, there are also other factors that may affect the pattern and the voters from participating. The COVID situation has disorganized a lot of families. Some people are either not together, or some people are in places where they are not going to vote. That could be one of them. Then there were students who had registered from schools where they were studying, but this time they are back home. So those ones are not, and then teachers, those ones may not be voting. So given some of the
arrangement. When in South Africa, when Mandela came on board, when the Africans won elections, there was a transitional arrangement, one, whereby actually people were in the old regime. Some of them were retained. When President Yoweri Museveni ascended onto power in 1986, there was a transitional arrangement where they actually had a government of a broad-based government, where they even retained some people from UPC. They even retained people in the civil service. So it is always key on the agenda. In the US, power is transiting from Donald Trump to Biden, and you see that everywhere there's actually a transitional committee, how that power is going to be transferred from one hand to another. So I would actually be surprised if any of the other candidates did not have a transition arrangement. I also believe that at a certain point, maybe assuming President Yoweri Museveni says that maybe I'm stopping it here, I need somebody perhaps to carry it on. Definitely that person will also have to come up with a transition arrangement.
But is transition somebody's manifesto or it's a constitutional mandate?
No, it is.
Because I think the constitution is clear,
yes,
that after every 5 years we get into elections.
Yes.
And it's glaringly clear that you have lost a parliamentary seat and exactly won that seat. So naturally, there is a transition from you to me, who is now incoming.
No, but at presidential level, it needs to be planned. You as a party, as somebody who is coming in, you must have a convincing arrangement. You must have an arrangement that will smoothly see things running. Some governments actually fail to transit. For example, you can see what is happening in Congo. for 2-3 years, they are failing to manage the transition, and things are not working out. So it really needs to be given a priority so that things can move smoothly.
Talking about Felix Tshisekedi and Kabila, yes, well, of course, because of these concessions, there were concessions here and there before, and the agreements were quite different. Talk about the transition agenda from the FDC manifesto.
Normally, when we talk of a transitional government or a transitional, I think that's what it is referring to as a transitional agenda. Transitional governments are governments that a collection of leadership from various political systems. For example, you talked about the transitional government of 1986, and this is when President Museveni is coming to power, and he has to look around for people who can help him to set up a government. The Constitution of Uganda gives that period when from one cycle of government into another. President Museveni, after the election, whoever will be elected the next president of this country, it will take I think until May, when a new government is supposed to be, the new president is supposed to be sworn in. This transition here is provided for the new person to be taken through the things that the president is doing so that he learns how to smoothly take over. Now, ordinarily, this transition is help to get a new person into a system and then he takes over. But I wouldn't expect a new government to be talking of a transitional government, because the transitional government is going to collect people from, in fact, to the extent that you believe that you don't have capacity to take over, and then you will have to rely on other political parties, other political players to help you take over. Transitional governments are governments that are coming out of either chaos, and I don't think that Uganda were in that type of situation. Now, that shows that the FDC, if it were given power today, will not be able to take off until collecting other people together to help form a government. In fact, it doesn't have capacity on its own to form that government.
No, I think, Ndugu Mututa, the issue is not a transitional government, but a transitional agenda.
Like he put it.
Actually, not like I put it. Yes. It is in the manifesto. Guys, let me just, because I think people need to know whether these things actually mean anything to the voters. All of us talk about the manifesto, for which we actually know very well. When you listen to President Museveni speaking, now we have what they call the Vision 2040.
Exactly.
Now, when we have the Vision 2040, these are projections of where we want to be for example, we now talk about 20 years from now. Where will Uganda be 20 years from today? Now, for us to get there, you can't do everything in one go, because we need to we need to have the digestibles into that. Now then, we also have the different national development plans. We just rolled out our third national development plan. And these are very good issues to start examining. That the national development plan was done by the technical people, the technocrats, the economists that we have, and several other people. Now had Amuriata Boy won the presidency, would he go with these things, or he would start all over again? For example, his transition agenda here, or transitional government, talks about, he says there is this crisis in Uganda, and I will skip many of these things, and he says, now, in Uganda there exists what they call state capture. The regime and its agents dominate all the influence in policy making in favor of their own interests. The regime is at will to apply coercion, such as when the regime military. Now there is also regime military, and you're starting to think, what about if Amuriata Boy had actually become president? What would happen to the regime military? He calls it regime military. And so you have the regime military, which attacked parliament and tortured and maimed members of parliament to ensure the passing of the constitution amendment interest over the military ruler. Now he says, furthermore, after the general elections of 2016, the military massacred hundreds of civilians in Kasese, at the time imprisoned the king, and which are bold acts of state, which are bold acts of the abuse of state instruments. Now he also says something here. He says this regime military directs the Electorate of Public Prosecutions and the judiciary to deliver the regime's interests. The supreme regime ruler is the one who appoints 100% of the judges. Those in courts are responsible for adjudicating any contestations against the regime and its agents. Now,
but look,
yes.
Given that, because you know, I think unless Engineer Amuriat is planning to be a permanent opposition member, or FDC as a permanent opposition party, because what happens is that when you become a president, when you are elected a leader, you become the system we are talking about. So you become the government which appoints the judges we are talking about. You become the institution that kills people you are talking about. Now, it is true that when you, during the few months, I think we have 3 months, when a person is elected a president, a lot of paperwork is done, and you are guided by the head of public service, you are guided by the secretary
of Judicial Service Commission, all these service commissions that
to sit down and see how do you want your government to look like. You structure your government accordingly. But of course there are already structures of government that are already established that you may not change much. You can change the people in those positions, but you are not going to change the whole system. If there are people you think you don't want, now what happens is when you get into power, first of all, before you become sworn in, you may not change much. You can have your appointments lists, but until you form government and parliament is formed, is when you can begin pushing for some of those adjustments within the government. But you cannot have a transition until you're already in power, and when you are in power, some of the things which is raising in the constitution are overtaken by events.
For example, he says, and I want you, Sebastian Cole, to respond to this. He says there are no free and fair elections because the Electoral Commission is partisan in the way it's constituted and directed by the regime. The regime has rejected reforms to democratize the composition of the activities of the Electoral Commission. Now, he comes into this election very well knowing that he's actually going to be adjudicated by a partisan commission. What was in the mind of Engineer Amuriat Boy, and what is he thinking now? Is he saying that, yes, I told you, or if the result was a different one, he would actually say, I'm sorry about that, it wasn't a partisan one?
No, I think that has always been the biggest undoing of FDC. That on one hand, you're telling your people that this thing we are going into is a waste of time. But again, on the other hand, you're telling them, yes, here we are, vote for us. And then the other mistake that actually FDC has always committed is coming out as taking all institutions of government and people who work there as their enemies or as their rivals. In countries where in countries where the opposition really has won, you find that there is that ray of hope, confidence during campaigns. That look here, this is the situation we are in, but we hope to improve it. But when you say you're coming really to disband, to do this, then ideally you're coming to destroy, because even during colonialism, countries that really fought for their independence, you find that at one time they had to put down the guns to negotiate. And in the negotiating, then you remember there was that transition, that you'd have elections, then you'd begin with the chief minister, the chief minister is taken through, and then eventually he becomes the prime minister. Olusegun Obasanjo at one time said that he had a chat with Nyerere, and Nyerere told him that, I mean, he had no experience of running government, from a classroom at St. Francis Pugu to becoming the chief minister. That so one time the governor asked him to originate a cabinet memo, and he was like, what is this? He was very green about it. So that is now the transition, that even if Amuriat had won elections, you still need President Yoweri Museveni as the outgoing president. In the event that if Amuriat had won, pulls the surprise and wins elections, you still need President Yoweri Museveni to take you through that this is how we conduct business. Equally important, he also has to introduce you to the army. That look here, he's your next commander-in-chief. The next commander-in-chief. So that is the transition. But when you get, when again he demonizes. In your manifesto, you begin demonizing the military itself. You are demonizing the judiciary, you are demonizing the army, you are demonizing everyone. I mean, now, whom are you going to work with?
No, it's a campaign on opposition.
Ndugu Sibasi, when you look at Amuriat's manifesto, I don't want to say that the people actually understood this and they didn't vote him because of the manifesto. I didn't hear him say so much about the manifesto, but I got a copy of his manifesto, which I actually read. Now, when you look at the issues in Amuriat's manifesto, many of these issues here require constitutional amendments or a constitutional review. Was it in the mind of Amuriat to actually think that he will become president, but also have the majority in parliament that will help him get all these things? He talks about, for example, a transitional administration, which is all-inclusive, and he says we need to negotiate a 5-year all-inclusive transitional administration to restore a rule of law and do all the other things. Now, in his mind, I think I'd forgotten that what we have now is winner takes all. When you are elected president, then you have the mandate to elect your vice president, to appoint your vice president, to appoint your ministers, to appoint all these people. It becomes your discretion. I'm ready to talk about negotiating a 5-year all-inclusive administration to ensure that we patch up all these things. That to him he thinks are a problem. But when you look at all these things, everything that he talks about here requires constitutional amendments. Was he in this business thinking that he would also actually raise the members of parliament needed to actually effect many of the changes that he wanted to get, or he would be president with the parliament dominated by other political parties but still marshal through what he wants?
Opposition politicians in Uganda will always end at talking, and nothing will be done. they had all the time after the Mbabazi versus Museveni and government case, court ruling. Court pronounced itself on these amendments, the electoral reforms, and Parliament had all the time to, including the opposition, because FDC had the biggest number of opposition MPs on the side, or on the opposition side. They had all the time to do the lobbying, because Parliament's about lobbying, to convince the other side that actually we need electoral reforms as yesterday. They failed. It came to getting into an election. They knew that no electoral reforms had been done. They accepted to walk into an election to be organized by a one-man picked electoral commission, which they knew. So it's laughable for him to start talking about things of a partisan electoral commission. What did you do about it? You had all the time of about 6 years down the road. In any case, why did you even have to participate in that election if you knew that it was being organized by a partisan electoral commission? Why do you have to waste time of party supporters convincing them to walk into an election? So I find we only have a resemblance of an opposition in Uganda, but we do not have an opposition.
Akon, would he raise the numbers? Because
I don't think they would raise the numbers, because you can only have hope of raising the numbers if you have fielded candidates in all the constituencies. There you can have, yes, you can start imagining, you can start dreaming. But where you've raised slightly more than 50%, and you're not sure that actually even half of them are going to win the elections. So I don't think really they are. But I just want to maybe to refer to what Andrew Mwenda did say earlier today, or yesterday, that when in Uganda we need an opposition leader the caliber of Raila Odinga. One who's not going to fear to court the powers that be. Yes, you need to talk to them, you need to convince them, so that perhaps together you can sit and see how you chart the way forward. But now here in Uganda, when President Yoweri Museveni the other time called Dr. Kizza Besigye, said, please come and we have a chat. President Yoweri Museveni, Dr. Kizza Besigye said, no, me, I cannot go and discuss with President Yoweri Museveni. So you really find that that kind of attitude is really killing, is killing the opposition here. You go to Congo, when Kabila was exiting, he had to reach out to Tshisekedi, who was in the position. And remember, Tshisekedi's father, that is Etienne Tshisekedi, yes, was actually was the fierce rival of Kabila. Actually, not only Kabila, but even his father, Laurent Kabila. You see, so, but it did not stop him from saying, look here, I can reach out to Felix Tshisekedi and we can work together. So that should always be the spirit. That in politics, you don't say that this is my permanent enemy or permanent friend, but there must always be interests. So it is incumbent upon the opposition that in their hearts of hearts, they should do that if it necessitates reaching out to President Yoweri Museveni, so that they can negotiate a particular position for Uganda. Then so it be, they should do that. But politics of ego, politics of branding the other a mole, I think it will take them nowhere.
Okay, well, that's very important. It brings me to the issue of Parliament, and do you want to make a comment on that before we get to the statistics
of
members of Parliament here?
When we talk about these manifestos, to me, a manifesto is not a handbook of a particular candidate.
It's a party.
It's a party aspiration and promise upon which the electorate buy into, and if they are convincing because you are going to vote for someone who buys into your thinking. You say, no, I think I'm relating with this man or this woman because of this, because of that. But I've seen most of these manifestos. I'm told Katumba was launching his...
or a day before election.
One wonders what he was selling. What was he selling around now?
So I think it is also important that the people who subscribe to these political parties sit down with their candidates and do that marketing strategy, because you are going to tell someone for what you believe in and what you think is going to be good for that person to be able to buy. But in most cases we have had this as a mockery really, because when you read, I've not had time to read most of these manifestos this time, and I've not also even had the opportunity to access many of them. I know for a few, but I've not had time to access many of them. But I think even when you access lots of them, you do discover that maybe someone sat down because, you know, there was that frenzy of launching a manifesto when campaigns were starting. Someone had to do something to ensure that it's launching a manifesto, even when the manifesto itself was not there. So it is again upon the political parties to sit down and come up with a marketing strategy. What do they want to tell Ugandans that they can buy into, that they will be able to have votes? But in most cases, you look at all these political parties and they're almost talking about the same thing. Last time we were talking about corruption. Another one is talking about what a few things, I mean, which they've been talking about. So I think is that shallowness into what we do, or sometimes for the movement, the book is too big. One who may not even have time.
It's a Bible.
Exactly, to digest it.
That's why they have the abridged versions.
Yes.
Those that summarize.
Yeah, you need that something, that two things or three things that can even be spoken offhand without necessarily having to go through that book. But again, the commitment to what you are saying is more important.
Now, let's get to what has come out as the results already for members of parliament, because we've seen the parliament take shape with NRM, I think, at 300 and how many? 311. So they'll give me the statistics. The producer here will help us get us the statistics of how Parliament has played out already. But NUP comes second to the NRM with 56 members of Parliament. Now so many people said if NUP gets many, they'll possibly get 20 or 30. Now they've surprised everybody that the numbers have actually risen to 56, taking over the FDC. FDC currently stands at, I think, about only 30 something. Thereabout. DP has actually dropped to only 8. Yes. UPC has actually increased to about 10 and 3 independent leaning. UPC has actually risen. PPP has actually brought in 1 for the first time. They've also brought in 1. ANT has brought 1 mainstream and 3 ANT independent. In a way. Then NOP has also brought 3 NOP independents. Now, then those who actually went as independents but NOP leaning, those are 3. Then, of course, JEMA retains their 1 slot of Asumani Basalirwa. And who else here? Now, let's talk about the independents. When you look at the statistics that I have from the Electoral Commission of members of Parliament that the Electoral Commission nominated as direct members of Parliament, independents are 1,036, and for women members of Parliament, they are 301. Now put that together, you have a tally of about 1,337 for independents. Now of all those independents, you've only had about 60-something%, only 60, not percent, but 60 members of Parliament on independent ticket. Now you have 60 on independent ticket, and the 3 UPC independents, the 3 ANT independents, the 3 NUP independents, which gives them still maybe 70 independents. Looking at the 1,030 plus independents and getting only 70, what does that mean? Let's talk about those, because everybody had anticipated and expected that there will be more and very many independents compared to what it is like today. A call.
No, this means that whereas there is, whereas we have, I can say that there is that rush to get into leadership. whereas we find that we have many Ugandans who aspire to become leaders, but our voters prefer that you should come under a party, that you should have a party that is going to sponsor your candidature, so that you are held accountable. First by your voters, but then also secondly by the party, so that you're not just hanging in the air. You are neither here,
the party is also held accountable.
nor there. So, but now they want that, yes, the wananchi should be able to hold you accountable, and also your party should also hold you accountable, and then that makes you deliver. But also, secondly, it also shows that. Our multi-party system is actually growing, though we need to check a few things here and there so that we can have that sorted. But again, it goes back to NRM. It goes back to NRM because 80% of the independents actually were NRM leading. And this means that the Electoral Commission of NRM, SEC NRM, should come up with measures of minimizing this in future, so that when somebody goes through primaries and in the event that they lose and they are not satisfied, then the party can have an arrangement of sitting them down, like actually what happened in is it Maogola North, that even when after people have nominated and they're already into the main race, the party should continue sitting them down until you finally come to a conclusion, a compromise, and then perhaps one can say, look here, I think I'm giving it up for my colleague. So that is what parties do. And some people say that no, parties must portray what we call internal democracy. But I think when a multi-party system is still young, what you need is actually party consensus. But every other time you say you're going into internal party democracy, you end up casualties. FDC tried it. They want to say, you look here in NRM, they just anoint, they just appoint. But as the day followed night, the party split. Muntu is out with his team, I think. So so every other time you do that, actually also it happened in Kenya, where Musalia Mudavadi and they said, no, me, I'm going to tussle with the Raila Odinga for the card, for the ODM presidential ticket, presidential flag. But midway, they parted ways. It had also happened before when they were forming. Is it NAC? And actually, even when they were forming ODM at first, when they had the Pentagon, you saw how Kalonzo moved out. So every other time there is a contest for leadership in a party, if it is not handled well, then it splits the party. So that is why a young democracy, especially picking the presidential flag, you need consensus. You need to sit down and say, look here, who stands a chance? Who stands a chance to help us? Now, even when you go to Ghana, that when Mrs. Nana Rawlings tried to compete against the late Atta Mills, and that marked the beginning of her departure until she formed her own party. So these are things that people want to talk about, but when they're actually not practical. So the best thing for parties actually is consensus at every level. So at the top, when you're choosing a candidate, I saw that is what NUP did, which I think that is right, that by consensus said, yes, Chagulanyi is our member. Even when Andrew Mwenda wanted to disorganize them, I saw how they really tried to ring-fence that position so that they could remain together. And also in other positions, they tried to see how they can do that, because I imagine if NUP had carried out primaries like those, like what NRM did, they would actually maybe would not have tested this victory, because it would have splitted them further.
Mututa, on the numbers of parliament, members of parliament coming in already, because it's second shape, and we are actually seeing that kind of parliament.
I think the seeding, the selection, the process needs to be looked at well. President Chikwete, when he was supposed to, he thought his time had come to be the president
Tanzania.
The elders sat down and said, no. We have two other people, I think two people ahead of you. There was Mukapa.
It was actually one, Mukapa.
Mukapa, but there was also a sitting president.
But that was Mwinyi.
Yeah, Mwinyi was going out, and then Mukapa was coming in. They said, no, for you, you are still a younger man then. You cannot now do that. But what we are going to do, you are going to CCM Secretariat, and you will be in charge of administration and youth programs. And that was a compromise. And that's what he did. And then from there he was sent for Foreign Affairs. He was appointed as Minister
for Foreign
Affairs. But that was training him eventually to take over leadership. And this is the compromise. Now, the problem here, why it is a do or die, why people rob the flags, why people have to, if it means killing, they will kill you, because there is no plan. There is no plan B. Because if you are going to tell someone, you leave this person, then what do I do? So there's the various secretary generals of the parties need to look at mentoring program of their leaders, so that when you tell someone to step down for the other, then there's a plan for the other person stepping down. I know, of course, sometimes the movement has done it. You appointed RD, so you appointed ambassador, you appointed something to compensate for that. But in the absence of that, then what happens? That's why you see the struggles. And talking about the MPs again, you realize, I will take, for example, the movement, because I think that's where we have a lot of examples to use. In places where we had problems with flags, we had Tororo, where Minister Opendi was tussling it out with someone. I had in Mbale where
Koni Galuwango and Lydia
Wanyoto.
You had in Sembabule.
I had in Sembabule also. We had also in where
in Rushenyi.
Yes, and then this
Rukuta and Kawasharira.
Exactly, where the former PPS was also tussling it out.
In Kazo.
In Kazo.
Now the former PPS and Lumumba.
Yes.
Now, even in Shema, Professor
even in Shema
and Professor Kamonto.
Exactly. Now, I can tell you, in all these places we have mentioned, if you go back today to look at the elections, they have gone back to the people who were supposed
okay. Well, hold it here. To all our viewers, we just want to thank you so much and say we are still with you until morning, like we told and promised you. That the election hub is open until Justice Byabakama Mjenyi finally does a declaration. What we give you are provisional results, but now what we actually give are the provisional results that are coming from the National Tally Center. UBC has not generated any figures as yet, and UBC has not projected any figures, but what we are giving is what is coming through from the National Tally Center. We have a promise from the National Tally Center that there will be another provisional pronouncement at 9 o'clock this morning, and of course that might be the second last. The next pronouncement thereafter will be the final declaration. Now what we are left with is only 10,600 polling stations to actually conclude. Now all the 34 may not be concluded, but what they are looking for is the substantial number that they can declare who the winner is. But as things stand now, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni is still leading with a margin of 61.98%, and followed there by the Honorable Kyagulanyi Ssentamu at 30.19%. As Amuriat Patrick Oboy of the FDC comes in third position. Now that is what is coming through there, and we're going to take a short break. But when we return, we want to now look at these comparisons of who has come in and who is going out, what it should have been. We want to look at those, and of course to also have an in-depth discussion on the so many ministers who have also been knocked out. Now to so many people, they're actually saying Museveni has been given a very simple task that many of his ministers have organically exited. Yes. So President Museveni, if he ever thought about letting them go, the electorate have actually eased the job for President Museveni. But of course, we'll also get into...
They have helped him...
this discussion.
They have helped him conduct a reshuffle in advance.
Exactly. The reshuffle has come before that time. So we'll take a break very shortly, and when we return, now we get into the dynamics of things as they continue playing out. Now remember, in studios, I am with James Mututa here. I am with Kola Mazima and Timothy Sibasi. These are all experts at the things with us here until morning. We'll take a break and return.
Peace is the most critical and most crucial need for human beings. Every soul, every person, every individual, the greatest need that person has is a sense of belonging to a loving community. That is only where there is peace. In the Bible we are told, blessed are the peacemakers, because they will be called children of God. Where there is struggle, where there is envy, where there is jealousy, where there is discontent, where there is dissatisfaction, peace is likely to be absent. It's my sincere prayer and appeal to my fellow citizens that the coming election should not escalate into violence and hatred and lack of peace. My message to all God's children hearing me is that we Christians pray for God to give amongst us men and women who have a heart to work for God's kingdom and to work for God's people. And you go for a voting, believing God will answer your prayers. But remember also that the people get leaders that they deserve. If the leader is bad, if the leader is not good, it is not just the leader's fault. It is all our fault because we might not have helped that person, we may not have brought that person up properly in our context. But let's just tolerate our leaders even though we don't love them, if God has given them to us, without causing violence and conflicts, so that with the time, the kind of leaders we want, if you don't want the ones that are going to come up, we see arised. So associating with any of them, voting for any of them, loving any of them, even if you don't love them, should not lead to violence, should not lead to hatred. Yours may go through, yours may not go through. It is how much you share the opinion and views with other people that will determine whether your candidate will go through. So in the event that your candidate has gone through, please do not insult, do not look down upon those candidates, those people whose candidate have not gone through. Don't intimidate them. Don't ridicule them. Don't be sarcastic to them because theirs have not gone through, because yours has gone through. But in the event that a candidate has gone through whom we did not want, please allow God to use him and give him time. 5 years is a very short time. You try to think through the reasons why you did not influence other people to share with you so that the right candidate goes through. So there should be no violence, there should be no fighting. Election, when it is passed, it should pass. People should begin working together. If there's one thing that we should accept, that we should work for, is that all of us should grow and be mature enough and be confident enough so that when we vote knowing that our votes are the right ones.
I greet you all, fellow Ugandans. As you are aware, on Thursday, January 14th, 2021, our country will be going to the polls of different leaders, starting with the President and members of Parliament. One's philosophy is not best expressed in words. It is expressed in the choices one makes. And the choices we make are ultimately our responsibility. Elections are an important mechanism in democratic and peace processes. Their purpose is to provide citizens with an opportunity to choose freely their political leaders and allocate power peacefully. I'm therefore appealing to all Ugandans, mostly my people who live and work in Soga, to exercise their democratic and electoral mandate peacefully without any skirmishes. All our actions during this period should be punctuated with the peace phrase. Relatedly, remember to fight against COVID-19 by exercising the recommended standard operating procedures as stipulated by the Ministry of Health. I thank you. Busogo Hwisania Nama.
Amanya bampita Lieutenant Colonel Edith Nakalema Asizwa, ndi mukazi mufumbo ate omuzadde nina abaana Katonda beyampa n'omwami wange nina n'abalala Katonda beyankwasa okulabirira n'amaka gange. So ndi wano okusaba bannayuganda bannange nti ennaku ze tulimu nnaku za kwegendereza ennyo olw'ekirwadde kino ekyakuba ensi yonna ekyatujirira. Buli omu wanakubira akalulu mulina okulaba oba ffenna tulina okulaba nti nga tusimbye ennyiriri olesewo ebbanga erimala. Nkimanyi bulungi nti ab'ebyokwerinda n'aba-Electoral Commission ffenna tuli tayali oba tuli gulugulu okulaba nga obumenyi bw'amateeka tebujja kubaawo. Tujja kugezaako ekisoboka abantu buli omu akuume eddembe lye ne lya munne. Nsaba Katonda ffenna tukwatirewo tukume eddembe twagalane tubeere bulungi tukuba akalulu abanayitamu bagende mu kujaguza naye mu kujaguza omwo namwe temuleetera mubuzibu ate bwakusiigana bulwadde oba kujaguza nako mukume distance, keep social distancing, mulekewe ebbanga mu byonna bye mukola. Mbagaliza omwaka guno omujja guleete essuubi eddungi gutubeere ogw'obulamu obweyagaza. Mukama Katonda abakuume, mbagaliza ebirungi byokka. Mwebale nnyo, mwebalire ddala.
Fellow Ugandans, the D-Day has come, 14th, to cast our ballots, and it is our right, it is your right to do so. And if you don't do so, then I don't think it is really right, because we have to exercise our rights and we go and vote. It is very true. It was agreed by all the Ugandans that we are going to cast our ballot on the 14th. I'd like to thank everyone who has tried, and we thank our candidates, all of them, for all we know in this troubled time of COVID. it has been really terrible. We can also see. However, I would like to join to add my voice also of those who are saying, let these elections be in the hands of God. In everything we do, in every situation, we must include God. We can't get so much excited that we don't even be like the children of God. In these elections, let God be our guide. And if we talk about God, He talks about peace, who brings peace in the entire world. I'd like to thank so much for those of you who have come out now to be the leaders and serve others. We wish you great victory, and for all of us, it is our duty now to support whom we support. And we shall see. It's like a football game. I support Man U, another supports Arsenal. Sometimes you find this excitement, this whatever, but after the game, we go again and, hug one another. We take a bottle and then we go. So I think let us pray for peace. All of us, young people, children, everybody's time now to pray, not to begin thinking, I'm going to fight, I'm going to burn a house, I'm going to cut somebody's bananas, as I've heard before, that before people would go and cut even people's bananas and cows, and I don't think we can go that way. Let us take our integrity and we pray that we vote in peace, with integrity, with great love, and let God be the one to direct and arrange everything. He knows better than even we do. He can change water into wine. He will change everything. He's God.
God has given Uganda an opportunity to come to the polls, to choose our leaders, to find very important persons in our country and give them the responsibility to lead us. It's a very positive exercise. It's a very positive undertaking. When people come together to vote, and they do it in peace, and justice and fairness is exercised, then the choices are supposed to be choices made by man, but approved of God. Scripture says in the book of Matthew, blessed are the peacemakers, to be called children of God. Would you now venture into that and become a child of God, a man and a woman of peace? And by the way, after the 14th, 15th, and 16th of January, this month, everything should go back to normal, because the people who must occupy our offices will have been selected. You and I have one job to do. Go and elect your candidate. Make a choice. Find somebody who is an ally. Find somebody who will help you, somebody who will push your agenda, somebody who will help you go where you want to go. That's the person you should choose. Don't be taken over by people who don't know what they're doing. Make a choice, a personal choice. Take the right person, thumb the right person. After that, sit back and relax. When you make a good choice, God will honor it. God bless you.
Your vote is not for sale. It is your personal security for a peaceful living. Choose a leader of your choice.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin. Wa salatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah. Abakadde baffe na Uganda abatuwuliriza yonna gye muli abatulaba ku mukutu gw'eggwanga guno UBC TV yaffe Nganze y'eggwanga nga Uganda Muslim Student Council ne ku lwange Secretary General. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Twagadde tubatuuseeko obubaka obwo okubuuza okwo ky'obusiraamu bwonna mirembe n'okubuuza kwe tutandikirako nti assalamu alaikum kwagaliza emirembe owulidde gye tutandikira bwe busiraamu. Tubakoowola bannayuganda mwenna ku lwange ne ku lwa Uganda Muslim Student Council management ne bakadde baffe bonna okuviira ddala wansi ku mizikiti egy'enjawulo okutuuka waggulu. Tubakoowola ne tubasaba nti bannaffe mutweyungeko okulaba nti okulonda kuno kubeera kwa mirembe, okutaliimu bwegugungo, okutaliimu kwekalakaasa, okuviira ddala wansi. Tulonde bulungi ku lw'ensi yaffe ne Katonda n'ensi yaffe, kuba tugaa nti for God and my country. Ensi eno eri ku musingi ogw'eddiini olw'okumanya eddiini. Ensonga lwaki mu mmoto yaffe mulimu ekigambo Katonda. Tusaba mutweyungeko kubanga eggwanga lyaffe. Bw'otunuulira amawanga agatwetoolodde, mawanga mangi sigali nga Uganda, solwa kubanga tetunnagitambula yennyini ne tugimanya. Ne bw'otambulako abaali babaddeko mu mawanga g'Abawarabu ne mulaba omusenyu, ne mulaba ettosi, n'otambula mayiro na mayiro tulabye muti, empewo bw'ejja tewaliwo kigikwata. Omusana bwe gujja ne guba nga gwagala kwokya. Ensi yaffe nnungi. Tusaba tukozese obulungi obuli mu nsi yaffe, naddala abavubuka tusobole okuba nga twekulaakulanya tugende mu maaso. Kye tuba tuyaayaanira tuyaayaanire amagezi n'okutegeera. Bino ebiriwo ebyokulonda bya kaseera buseera. N'omu yajja okusalawo oba yasazeewo dda ani ajja okuba omukulembeze w'eggwanga. Tusaba nti eddoboozi ly'omu kifo ky'okwekalakaasa liteeke mu kalulu, naye tetusobola kati kukkiriza bintu bigenda kututabangulira ddembe mu nsi yonna okulaba nti tuddamu. Yes, process weri eri constitutional gye tuba tugoberera okulaba nti tutwala eggwanga lyaffe mu maaso inshallah taala.
Well, thank you so much and a very good morning. We continue with the discussion here as we look into things as they've continued to unfold and to happen. My name is Jagenda Semakola Ziksoka once again. We continue with the conversation and with the discussion here at the Elections Hub on UBC UG Polls 2021. It is just a few minutes, exactly 23 minutes after the hour of 2 o'clock. And we will sail with you like this till 4 a.m. When we will again let you know what is continuing to happen just right there. Now we have a correspondent online joining us, Mr. Tumusime from Mubende. Tumusime, nsanso kuuliza bw'oba mpulira gy'oli.
Empulira omulabi waffe wa TV ya gavumenti ya UBCCC essaawa eno ndi mu bitundu by'e Mubende era okutuusaako eb'e Mubende baakatandika kati okuba nga babibala ebivudde mu naddala mu kulonda bagati bw'olaba essasa erisigaddeko ssasa lirimu eryabwekula kawunze yetukyalize naye erisinga tumaze okuba nga tubifuna naddala by'omukulembeze w'eggwanga asobole okuba nga aleekera ddala era wano asobola okufuna obulungi obuwerera ddala emitwalo 7 mu 1837 gajje mu disitulikiti y'e Mubende. Kyagwanisa entamu yakusa ekyokubiri n'obubonero n'obululu emitwalo 4,908. Patrick Amuliyadi afunye obululu 305, Mugisa Muntu 328, Deno Mugisa Muntu Henry Tumukunda afunyeko obululu 353, Mayamba nafunako obululu 49, Reni Katumba Mubende afunye 196, Nancy Kalenda afunyeko obululu 10, Nobert Mawuwo Watisa afunyeko obululu 13, Fred Mwesije afunyeyo obululu 18, ate Joseph Kabuleta asobola okufuna obululu 13 mu disitulikiti yonna ey'e Mubende. Abakyala tulinako abakyala wano saako n'owa NRM saako n'atalina kibiina. Owa NRM yasobodde okuba ng'awangula olw'ekaano luno nga ye Provisional nakazibwe 15,575, ate na Lusiba Allen atalina kibiina asobodde okuba ng'afuna obululu 1,404. Ndi wano n'omubaka ono amanyike, ndi wano ne Provisional nakazibwe era abeeko akubuulira embeera nga bw'etambudde, akulira ekifaananyi ekikulu engeri gy'agenda okuba ng'akulira Bannamubende ng'omubaka omukyala owa disitulikiti. Jjukira ono atingidde minisita namugwanya Ben Bugembe, minisita yali minisita omubezi w'e Kampala, yali mu kifo kino naye n'agwa mu kamyufu n'atasobola kuba ng'akomawo. Wuno kakubuuzeeko.
Mumpeeko naye atubuuzeeko tule ekyagamba nekyateeseteese okukolera abantu beruddeyo.
Abakiwuliriza bakakati yakyuseemu buwulirizibwa yenze nakazeko Provisional ekikyo ekya Mubende disitulikiti nga nze umanike mukyala wangudde ekifo ky'omubaka omukyala wa Mubende disitulikiti mu kalulu kano aka 2021 kitegeeza nti ngenda kubeera nga ntwala Mubende disitulikiti mu kisanja okuva 2021 mpaka 2026. So mikono gyange abalungi Bannamubende abakwata TPFN ennungi beebaza obuwagizi, beebaza nnyo okunkagira omunteekamu obwesige nemugamba Provisional nakazibwe yagwanidde era yagenda okutuweereza, yagenda okutuusa eddoboozi lyaffe Bannamubende. Nzikiriza era nsaasira emikwano gyange abawagizi bange babadde bampagira emitima begitunduzze olw'embeera ebaddewo ng'akalulu twagala bakalangirire nga ebitundu ebirala byalangiridde dda naye nga ffe tetunnaba kulangirirwa. Mikwano gyaffe mbayozaayoza muyogeeyoge naye mbasuubiza nti bye nabasuubiza okubakolera nga Bannamubende ngenda kubibakolera, ngenda kusigala nga ndi mwesiga gye muli Munnamubende yonna gy'oli, njagala kubaweereza, njagala kubakolera mikwano gyange. Nakakati empagi enyimiridde.
Bannamubende tulina ekizibu ky'ettaka, kiki ky'ogenda okuteekako okulaba nga Bende tumalako ekizibu ky'ettaka?
Ku nsonga z'eby'ettaka ekyamazima kye nnina okubagamba mikwano gyange sikyusakyusa mu bigambo byange nga bwe nze mbagamba nga nti tugenda kuteekawo emisumu abantu basobole okufuna information, omuntu abeere n'okumanya kubikwatira ddala ku ttaka. Luli babadde bajja ne bagobaganya abantu naye ng'oluusi biva mu kuba nti tebafunye information gye bateekeddwa kufuna okusobola okwerwanako singa wabaawo omuntu azze okumunyikiriza. N'ekirala okufuna ba lawyers, ba councils, ate era n'abapunta oba abantu abaasoma eby'ettaka okwongera okubangula abantu baffe ate era n'okuyimirirangawo okuwozanga emisango egyo, kubanga oyinza okusanga abantu baffe abangi nga tebasobola kusastaininga oba kusobola kuyimirizaawo ba lawyers ebyo tambula jangu ddayo komawo genda so ebyo byonna nja kubibakwatirako tubeere ne balooyazi abatuwolereza ku nsonga zettaka.
Omulabi waffe wa TV ya gavumenti eya UBC yoyo Hope bwenkumunyaaminyirako wano era okubaala akalulu kalinga tulinga abakukomekerezeddwa naye bwenkuyitaayitiramu kuta omubaka wa Muwende municipality kubaddeko Basiru Sempo wa NRM naye asobodde okuba nga awangula akalulu kano n'obululu 993 ate Bob Kyamanywa wa Nuupu akuta ekifo kyokubiri bafunye obululu 921. Kibuka Amoti bazigatirawo Amoti afunyeko obululu 2900 mwana mubuna ate Musaasi Systemata afunyeko obululu 228. Kirabo Jane omukyala abadde n'abasajja asobodde okufunako obululu 723 ate Muyini Ronald owa DP asobodde okufuna obululu 58. ate ku Buweekula South nalyo saza Tumwezi Defred owa NRM yasobodde okuba nga agudde ne flaga y'NRM ono mu bantu naddala mu disitulikiti eno y'e Mubende era ng'ono asingiddwa Ndoli William Museveni abadde talina kibiina nga Ndoli William Museveni asobodde okufuna obululu 875 ate Tumwezi Defred asobodde okufuna obululu 774 ate alina byonna Ronald wa Nuupu n'afunayo obululu 1,117. Akabuweekula kaunti essaawa eno atwala ebyokulonda mu disitulikiti eno Kuniira Crescent yonna ali mu kumaliriza naye bye twakafunako right now naye ali mu ssanyu Pasco Mbabazi naye amaze okuba ng'alangirirwa nga omukulembeze agenda okuba ng'atwala Buweekula kaunti. Bw'otunuulira ekifaananyi NRM yeerisiza enkuuli kuba esobodde okuyisaamu bw'olaba ne Kasambya David ne Kasambya kankuyitireyo Kasambya kaunti eno wava omubaka amanyiddwa nga Mbwatekamwa. David Kabanda asobodde okuba NRM asobodde okuba nga abaliyako afunye obululu obuwerera ddala emitwalo 2,678 ate Mulindwa Patrick ono afunye obululu 635. Mutabazi Fred afunyeko obululu 1,819. Simba Burhan afunyeko obululu 7,784 ate Uganda Nakatudde afunyeko obululu 376. Mumuza Henry n'afunako obululu 10,972. Essaawa eno bwe nkubira ekifaananyi abana NRM abasobodde okuyitamu baliwe David Kabanda ono wa NRM Kasambya constituency Yusira Mubende ekola amasazaana okuli Kasambya David Kabanda wa NRM asobodde okuba nga balyako empanga ate bw'ogenda mu Buweekula kaunti Pasco Mbabazi asobodde okuba muna NRM asobodde okuba nga abalyako empanga ate bw'ojja Mubende municipality Basiru Sempa abadde ne flaga y'NRM asobodde okuba nga abalyako empanga lako n'omukyalo wa Mubende district omujja omupya Opunakazibwe Grania na NRM naye asobodde okuba nga abalyako empanga abula flaga y'NRM eganye nakutegeezezzaako ebadde mu Buweekula South nebadde yinibwa nga ono Mwesige Fred yabadde ayina flaga eno era atalina kibiina amanyiddwa nga Ndoli Museveni yasobodde okuba nga amuwangula naye ng'ekifaananyi ekiri eno Mubende okuva waggulu okuva w'omukulembeze w'eggwanga patula Pulezidenti Yoweri Kaguta Museveni akubidde ddala Mr. Kyagulanyi Ssentamu ate ne bakaada be bafulaga beera tulaba beerisiza enkuuli kuba ekibiina kino tekirina we kivuganyiza era mu disitulikiti y'e Mubende tekireese muntu yenna alina kaadi ya Nuupu wabula ntegeezeddwako nti no mu bitundu by'e Kasanda Nuupu egezezaako okweriisa enkuuli kuba bye tunaakafunako Flavia Nabagabe asobodde okuba nga alangirirwa Ukadiano baako n'ensamba Patrick abadde omubaka wa Kasanda North naye essaawa eno tuwulidde nti amawulire nti amaze okuba ng'alangirirwa olunaku olwaleero. Saako muwummuza nsuula ntya abadde ne fulaga y'NRM mu Kasanda South tutegeezeddwako nti awanguddwa Munanuupu abadde ne fulaga yamanyiddwa erinnya lye linvudde mu mutwe era nga muwummuza Henry naye awanguddwa. Nonsuluga naye awanguddwa ku jjukira babadde ku gundi eno y'emu era nga abantu mu disitulikiti y'e Mubende wendi wano ku Tale Center okulonda kutambudde bulungi kozi nsobola n'okukuwaako ku mbeera okitiibwa sobola obakuwaako kuba tuli mu kudda waka tuli mu kweyokera okuva ku Tale Center. Wekitiibwa oli ku live ku UBC TV ya gavumenti yogerako
amanya n'eddoboozi nze Kibirige Benedict era ndi wa Kasambya Mubende district supervisor wa Hope Grani ya Nakazibwe essuubi epya lya Mubende omubaka abadde akwatidde NRM Bendera era awangudde ekifo eky'omubaka omukyala owa Mubende district. Tubasanyufu nnyo okubanga candidate waffe gwe tubadde tuwagira awangudde abadde akwatidde NRM Bendera.
Owekitiibwa mukulu gy'agenda
Neyanzege bwana tumusiime webale nnyo amawulire g'otutuusizzaako ago agava mu disitulikiti yammwe Mubende. Okoze bulungi. Tweyanziza nnyo kati ku leka otambuloddeeko obudde buno bugenze ate nga tulina okwetegekera nsalesale olunaku olwaleero mu ttuntu awo obanga obudde buwungeera. Webale nnyo tumusiime. Neyanziza nnyo neyanzege. Well, thank you so much. That's Tumusime, our correspondent from Mubende, who is also just shared these details with us. In Mubende, specifically, David Kabanda. David Kabanda, surprisingly, has also come, going where Mwatekamwa Gaffa was. Kabanda, I'm surprised. He's actually made it through. He's coming. And of course, all the others. But that is how it's played out in Mubende district. Gentlemen, let's now run through the comparisons of what we are looking at and what we are seeing playing out. I will start with the new entrants. Now, David Kabanda is one of those. I want to talk about these new entrants. David Kabanda is one of those. And you will also notice that the new faces that we're seeing, David Sebukenya has come on, I think, taking over from what's his name? Sajjali Abeni. Yes. In Savagabo. Sajjali Abeni has only become a one-term member of parliament. Mwine Mpaka, but of course Mwine Mpaka has been in. Just coming, he was in as a youth member of parliament. Yeah, he's just consolidated it. Dennis Sekabira comes in also from within here. Brenda Nabukenya comes back. Brenda Nabukenya comes back. Remember, she came beating Narwanga. Then she was trounced in the preceding election, but now comes back.
On what ticket? Actually, she started as a youth.
She started as youth.
Then went for the district.
Then she went for the district.
No, she has never.
No, she wasn't youth. She wasn't youth.
Okay.
She was guild president.
She wasn't youth. Yeah, because she came in. You know, there was that contest of I think 30 votes. There was a difference of 30 votes between her and Narwanga. Yes. Now, the other shocking figure here is Agnes Nandutu. Agnes Nandutu did not get the flag for the NRM, and so she decided to come by herself, and here she is, also coming in. Mawawi James, Dr. Charles Sayume from Koboko Municipality, and Dr. Chiyaga Hilderman. Hillary Chiyaga comes on, and of course, quite a number of new figures that are coming to Parliament. Kampala has been, except Mohammed Inseleko. All the others are actually new faces. Kampala is everything new, except Mohammed Inseleko, who is serving his third term, or who will be serving his third term. Let's look at these new faces coming into Parliament. And the numbers actually have increased for the new people who are coming into Parliament. Mututa, let me pick your mind on this particular one.
The outgoing Parliament has had a number of issues. Of course, when you compare the 8th Parliament and then the 9th Parliament, you realize there are a number of things that have gone wrong. And there was a wave from the time of the constitutional amendments. And this we see even within the political parties themselves. I think there was that disgruntlement that when we went for primaries, you would see either people who were not cooperative in the, who are actually not cooperative in the Tuchikwatako, had issues in their respective political parties, both in the opposition and the movement. But also, there have also been a number of developments within. But I think the most important, the outstanding one was those amendments. But at the same time, for whatever reason, this parliament seemed to have had a number of other weaknesses. More so, I think the quality also of the representatives either didn't measure up to the point, but also I think over time now MPs are also learning to make promises that they can fulfill. Because I think in the past there has been a lot of promises that are made to the constituents. You are talking about schools, you are talking about roads, you are talking about hospitals and all these things. Ordinarily, these are not the roles of a member of parliament. But I don't know why this guy is up to this year.
Still say those things?
Yes, go ahead and make these promises. Now, when time comes and you are being held accountable for these things, of course you are not going to be able to fulfill them anyway. And the money they get cannot be enough to make even a single road in a constituency. It is only a prayer that maybe when you go through, you'll have someone from either UNRWA or from some PS from Ministry of Health, or someone who will help you at least to do one of those things that you have promised. But it's a gamble of all sorts. So I think now over time, members of parliament are learning that hard way, that sometimes you need to limit your promises within the things that you can do than promising things that you may not be able to do. And that's why these punishments, we're now seeing that many of them are being pulled back.
Let me pick your mind on newcomers.
I think, you know, in education they say no education system, no country is better than the quality of its education system, and no education system is better than the quality of its teachers. Now, this goes back to what I wanted to say. Let's look at the principles, the principles of the various parties. So, in other words, even see that parties that have brought in new entrants, who are actually up to the task. I think NRM has tried. But now when you get to the opposition, at times they've just voted for the sake of voting. That even if maybe NUP is to form government, they would actually have problems somewhere. Who to appoint where, who to appoint in particular positions. Now, I also want to get back to Mututa's issue. That when he said that he doesn't know why people keep promising. You see, what is very interesting with Uganda and by extension African politics is that the roles of the member of parliament are well known. There are about 4 roles: legislation, representation. But there are other roles that are not written and spoken, the unspoken and written roles of a member of parliament. And unfortunately, those are the ones that matter. So the unspoken and unwritten roles of a member of parliament, it is helping your people participating in the development of the constituency. That is why at one time, even in Kenya, or even here, we had a constituency development fund, because they realized that even much as that is not your role, but it is one of the unwritten and unspoken roles. That is why you'll find that somebody who has never even coughed on the floor of parliament, but ever in his constituency, helping people at barriers, helping people with their problems, he'll go through. Here will be Jagenda, drafting and passing bills, discussing this, doing that. And when it comes to elections, because you only come to report what is at Parliament without participating in their personal welfare, you lose an election. So these are the hard realities we have with our democracy. The very, very hard realities. Okay. Now, still on the issue of quality. Let's look at let's look at, of course, I've always liked places like northern Uganda and western Uganda, that every other time they make a replacement is up to the task. For example, in Shema, when you lose a person like Professor Kamuntu, you bring Professor Mushemeza. You lose a person like Dr. Erioda, you bring Kateshumba. So you find that every other person, when they lose somebody, the replacement is always adequate. But now when you come here, especially in Buganda and Musoga, they will replace a ministerial material with actually somebody who you wonder what.
Actually, let me start picking your minds on these particular ones, because that's a debate I also wanted us to provoke this morning. That we are seeing, of course, the new entrants coming on and coming in. I'll get you, Ndugu Sibasi. When you knock out our minister, Judith Navakoba Narule, and you bring in Joyce Bagala, the comparison there. What have the people of Mityana lost or gained? When you exit, let's talk about Kampala here, for example. You pushed out Ruhindi, who was Attorney General, and you brought Kabaziguruka. Now you've exited Kabaziguruka and brought Balimwezo Nsumuga. You knock out Sajali Abene, then bring some other person. You knock out, just do that mathematics and tell me, what have these people had to gain? Mubaraka Munyagwa and Segirinya Muhammad, Mr. Update.
Bashir.
No, Bashir. Yes. Bashir and Muhammad, what's his name? Munyagwa and Bashir. You go to Latif and Sebagala. Sorry, Latif, Sebagala and Segirinya Muhammad. That comparison. Now, you've pulled out and pushed in. Let's look at those and see the comparison. Like he says, when you bring in Desh Katesumba, he's equally, same material. When you knock out Shenyi, you knock out Mwesugarukuta, now you bring Kabasharira. When you knock out Tumwesije, you bring in Mushemeja. Just looking at those issues in there, Ndugu Sibasi, the comparisons of who has gone out and who has come in.
Before I start talking about the quality of MPs that we are going to have, that are coming in the 11th Parliament, much as we may have issues with the kind of personalities that the voters have sent, they normally say, if you want to know the level of education of the people being represented by Mr. X, you tell by the characters and style that person. So, if you send a person like Segirinya,
who they've sent actually,
then before you blame Segirinya, you are supposed to blame the Electorate, because he's a summary of the people. He portrays the real image of the people who have sent him to Parliament. Much as you may say that it's their right, fine, maybe they are right to send him, but are you doing a service or a disservice to society, to that constituency? And that's where politics completely in the central region, I'm sorry to use a certain word, politics in the central region is going to the dogs. In northern Uganda, you cannot find that mess. They send the cream de la cream. Midwestern Uganda, areas of Umbara, they are learning from the northerners. You send cream de la cream. Busoga is the same thing. Many of the guys they send in parliament, either they are lawyers or they are fine guys. In Chigezi, it's the same. You hardly see Banya Chigezi in the parliament sending jokers, comedians in the parliament. But I don't know what's going on in Central Region, really. We need to get back to the drawing board and we know where are we getting it wrong. That you get comedians, you bring them in parliament. At the end of the day, these are the guys who are going to jump on tables. You know, stuff like that. So, for me, I don't blame them. I blame the people who send people like that. But
we'll ask you a question, Dogo Sibasi. How better have those who have been there been? Because when you talk about all the others now who have exited, Ruth Nankabirwa, for example, you talk about Nabakoba herself, you talk about Sempija, you talk about, and quite a number. And they will actually ask you, yes, they have been there for all these years, 10, 15, 20 years. Muyingo, Minister of Education, they will tell you these have been here, but what has changed? And of course, this might also become an argument.
Yes. I'm talking about the level of debate, the quality of debate. You remove Mr. Muyingo, an educationist. Always when Muyingo could talk about issues of education, you see somebody speaking from a professional background. And then you replace him with somebody who is going to come and start making loose statement. You remove, yes, Katolu Bwama was another mess, but again, garbage in, garbage out. You are removing a worst person and you are bringing a worst person. You are removing this Sebagala, Latif Sebagala, an educationist, fine guy, and you are replacing him with
Mr. Abdul Segri Muhammad.
Yes. So the two are incomparable in terms of quality debate.
Talk about Muyingo in Bamnanik or whatever. The person has actually trounced Honorable Muyingo, who was his political assistant and the personal assistant, and Honorable Muyingo actually educated him, sponsored his education and all the things too. And these things keep happening, especially these political assistants now. They have all the time to interact with the constituents. They have all the time to go and represent you at burials, at funerals, with the people in churches, in the mosques, at fundraising events, and all these things. You send them, go read my speech, tell them, Honorable Babatumide, take this money, tell them, Honorable Balinamwe. And now they market themselves in a way. Is it also undoing them now? Look at Dr. Chiaga, Hilderman, and Amelia Chambade. Now, who would ever think that these two very good friends, a mother and son, would actually get to where it is today? Who would ever think about that? That a daughter of Senseko, Kurubia, you know, in Buganda, and if anybody knows that family of the Senseko Kurubia is in Buganda, and Hilda Chichiaga. But of course, there are issues that keep happening. Now, Chiaga is with the people, Amelia Chambade is doing national duty. And there are these questions. You are the Minister of Trade, and maybe they're not seeing trade in their own constituency or whatever that means. And I think Chiaga can actually say that. What trade are you doing? But we have a Minister of Trade who comes from within ourselves or from amongst ourselves. Don't you think that these are some of the issues that the electorate are looking at even when we want to castigate their decisions for who they've chosen?
Maybe, Jagenda, maybe if I can come in on that particular thing, I think we shouldn't look at the bad things in that, because ideally a political assistant should be a leader in making. A leader in making. I'll give an example. Former President of Tanzania, Kikwete, he used to say that he was the personal assistant of Pius Msekwa. Pius Msekwa was the first African Vice Chancellor of the University of Dar es Salaam. He was actually the first black clerk to Parliament in Tanzania, and was the Secretary General of, actually, by that time it was TANU. So when he was the Secretary General of TANU, that was the time Ndugu Kikwete had finished university. and he took him on as his personal assistant, and therefore he started mentoring him. So, and he was saying that now he is proud that Kikwete rose to become
I
the
entirely
president.
agree with you,
Yes.
and I'm actually not saying we should look at the bad things from the political assistants or personal assistants. And I think that's why we all need, or have, or even have worked as personal assistants. They are, yes, leaders in the making. We call them armor bearers and all the things. It is not a bad thing for you to actually be an armor bearer of the bishop and eventually also become a bishop. But when the contest becomes you the bishop and your armor bearer, and one has to exit the other, I think this is what it is.
I still remember General...
To both of them now, we would ask Honorable Dr. Jesse Miyingo that yes, you've groomed this man. Why don't you let him take over? Why don't you let him take over as opposed to having both of them go into the contest?
I think, gentlemen, you have always walked into the corridor of Parliament. The kind of personal assistance that MPs have, they're not graduates. Majority of them, they're not graduates.
But I think they're clever.
They're not even,
I think those are clever,
either they're senior 4 dropouts.
But yes, but I think those are clever
let me tell you.
When you have a vibrant one,
one time General Katumba Amara said something when soldiers had started shooting people, and people used to think that either soldiers have run mad and started misbehaving. Katumba said that, do not blame us. We recruit these are your children. We recruit sometimes from a spoiled society. If you, the LC1, it starts with you. If you see that the army has a thief has been recruited in the army or is going to be recruited in the army, tell that you are taking a thief in the army. Then we do what? But when you keep quiet and you make us a recruit, you know somebody is a thief, you know somebody is a bad manner.
There will be problems.
Then you don't blame the institution, but blame yourself.
Matuta, you're coming in here. What triggered you?
I was saying, I think when you look at it, and I've been talking about this issue, that maybe we have brought down the bar for leadership in this country so much,
gone low,
that any person can move from anywhere and find themselves in leadership.
The standards are very easy. Standards are very easy. 18 years, senior 6.
Yeah.
You can get anywhere. If you are 18 and you have a minimum of senior 6 now, S6 doesn't mean you actually passed. But for as long as you qualified and said, I don't think they even ask for principal passes as if you're joining university. For as long as you just have a certificate that yes, you did, or even actually getting equivalence, that's the minimum.
Yes. So much so that any person can now claim to be anything. Being a personal assistant, I understand, it's a noble calling because organizing a principle is not easy. I appreciate that. But also to the level that when you become a personal assistant to someone, then you are also going, because, yeah, like he put it, President Kikwete was, but that was strategically, because it was given to a person who was going to help him to be someone in the future. Now, most of these personal assistants are people we have worked with in the constituency, but you see this younger woman or younger man dynamic, and you feel like instead of leaving him in the village, you can, as a part of employment.
You carry them on.
Yes. And then tomorrow, they are just looking at what you are getting. But also at the same time, I think there is too much of the demands of the constituency to the MPs. So that they will want this, they will want this, and when you don't deliver, then someone will say, okay, if he has not, and we have had cases, can I remember some, where a person has said, I supported him or her, but since he has not helped me, I also have children, I'm going to sponsor my child to stand against him or her. And we have had these cases. Sometimes it's out of that trying to pull someone down, and we have seen this also happen. But I think we need to get back.
I think this happened in your area with the Wachikona, I think, or something. There was the Wekomba family, I think, or something. It also happened.
Yeah, it is
Wekomba, where somebody says, I need something from you and you did not.
Yeah, and you didn't help me, so I'm
somebody
also
stand against
exactly.
you. But yet, the person that you are exiting is ministerial material. But you let them go because they possibly just didn't do something.
Yeah, you also want now to prove to them you are powerful. So that also kills. But like we had discussed earlier, that if this selection of people who are going to occupy these positions of leadership are done by the respective political parties, you know you have mentored someone to a particular level, this one can now take on this one can take on this one. I think maybe that could also help. But at the same time, I think there is need to raise a bar a bit. Generally, 18, fine, you have these papers, fine, but as a political organization, who do we need to present as our best for that political position? That when we have an opening, let's second our best for that political opposition. Now that when these people finally in leadership, because the problem again we're having here is that the political organizations are not taking responsibility for the mess, for the mistakes of the leaders that we are having. Because again, if you are having a person, and this some debate also where people have been talking about, when you become a member of parliament and finally you become a minister, is it necessary that you relinquish your parliamentary position, that you are able now to serve the country? Because as a minister, you are not going only to look at your constituency. But in this country where we have had ministers doing all the work of the ministry, but in their constituencies. Now, if you don't do that, you are not going to have the next election. So I think if we have people, when they become ministers, or when they are appointed ministers, relinquishing their parliamentary positions, will help these people to concentrate on national matters.
Okay, is that what explains the rate of casualty for the ministers? For example, in the last election now, Major retired. Alupo was returned. She lost it the other time, being Minister of Education, and no losing. Now another Minister of Education has actually lost. The other Minister of Education, both Ministers of Education have actually lost. Now, it happens. Irene Moloni, Minister of Energy at that time, lost. And you just look at that happening. What explains these issues where a minister actually loses? Is it because of the duties that they get to, that they negate or neglect their duties at the constituency? Wouldn't the people be happy that whenever, because this actually happens in Western Uganda where you're talking about, when you go to Northern Uganda, these things also happen. They look at you and say, if you've been sent to parliament and you're appointed as a minister, to them it's a plus. That we have somebody amongst ourselves that if we send them to parliament, we are sure that out of these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we at least have a minister out of these. Now to the others, it actually works against you. Look at the ministers, for example, in our region, in central region, many of these actually that were not returning. Is that what explains it? The Honorable Nabakova Judith just became a minister in January. In January, she was actually appointed in December 2019, and she started work, I think, in January or December, thereabout, 2019, and it's only that year, which was actually a COVID year, and things have turned differently. Is that what explains that? That for ministers, it actually turns against them instead, what would have been a plus?
No, I think that's why some countries have a system that separating the executive from the legislature. That once you are in a minister, you cease being a member of parliament, so that people really can you join the executive. You're either in the executive or in the legislature. So some countries have that kind of arrangement. But also that really said, at times ministers tend to forget their constituencies. And now the burden of checking on the constituencies is now transferred to the personal assistant, and maybe that's why personal assistants take advantage. Is transferred to the personal assistant. But if you are actually smart minister, I think you can now actually that becomes a bonus, because you can channel if development projects too. It actually gives you an upper hand of lobbying for your constituency. But again, also I must say that when you become a minister, also the expectations raise.
Yeah, for
yes,
example,
actually.
I can give you,
Yes.
and I'll use this example of Honorable Muloni. Part of the problems, I mean, she had was that she was a minister for energy, and of course, energy had a lot of projects. And people are saying, but why are you not giving our children jobs?
Yes.
Because you have a minister, a ministry which has a lot of jobs,
yes.
and our children are not getting jobs. But definitely, you know, in all fairness, a minister, well, can try, but he does not, she does not give those jobs. Those jobs are advertised, and people compete. And it is not going to be easy for the minister to be writing cheats, give this one.
Every other time.
Yeah, exactly. So it becomes a problem. So those demands, when aggregated, they now become to a problem back in the
Do the people
constituency.
understand when you explain to them as a minister?
No, I think really people really don't understand. Because as I say that once you become a minister, also expectations are really very, very many from the electorates. Actually, they believe that you should be doing this. But again, also, we must not forget the pride that comes with it, that actually some people really become proud. And this reminds me of a book I read at Oliver, Arithur Udomo, that when Udomo was actually mobilizing people to fight for their independence, to fight for their freedom, he promised them a lot of things. But when they get their independence, he is the president, he actually realizes that the people they chased away the colonialists. Actually, they need them to work with them for development. He also realized that now running a government is far different from what he had expected. So when people are appointed ministers, they are also hit by hard realities. Because the first time they appointed ministers, they have this homecoming party. They say now, but what they into Tulide? Only by when they start working now with the technocrats, they realize actually it is far from Mukulia, but you've come now to work. You get it. So those are some of the challenges.
The issue that we're talking about is a very serious matter, very sensitive matter. When you read the Hansard of the 1960s, the Hansard of 1996, and you see the quality of debate at that time and the quality of debate now, you can collapse.
No, I think Sebas is making a very pertinent point here. I love interacting with those documents, the parliamentary Hansards and stuff like that. But yet again, let's look at the debate, the quality of debate itself in the House, where you had for some time the likes of Kawanga, Semo Gerede, there was Paulo Kawanga, the times of Bidani Sali, the times of Abubakar Kacha Mayanja, the times of Mayanja and Kanji, the times of Damiano Rubega, the times of Sebana Chizito,
and now
compare
that quality of people with the quality of people in Parliament today.
Look at them. Recently, I was reading the Hansard of, I think, 1999, thereabout March, when they were discussing the dissolving and Uganda Airlines. The Mwandas there, the Kutesas of that time, the Kutesas of that time, you know, all the Hansard, and the issues that were putting forth. Just looking at that and what we're talking about today, let's look at that. Are people interested? Do the people even remember now? Many of them will tell you, who was Mayanja and Kanji? Who was Kachaba Mayanja? Who was Sebana Chizito? Many, when you talk about Sebana Chizito, they'll just look at Sebana Chizito, who was possibly in the city hall. When you talk about Bidandi Sali, they will possibly just think about Bidandi Sali, who was who just actually left NRM and went. Many of these actually may not resonate with them. When you talk about them, are they interested really in what these people debate on the Hansard? Any of you guys?
I think it goes back to what he said.
The incubation of centers.
We've lowered the bar for leadership. The bar of leadership has, you see, even during the olden days.
Who should apologize to us? Should it be President Museveni or now Bobby Wine?
No. Of course,
somebody needs to apologize.
No. Because when you look at that, you also, if you are looking at quality, you're also going to look at quantity. Now,
very important. Yes.
Yes, because when you talk of the danceries and the nannies of that time, how many members of parliament are we looking at?
Yeah.
Now, across here, the parliament is being expanded. How many people are we going to accommodate in that parliament? Now, if you want to go back to that, it means...
These were coming in now, 526
exactly.
or 27?
From about 150. That time.
The numbers exponentially grow.
Actually, initially it was 80.
Exactly. So, when you have 80 men and women that discussing issues of national importance and national interest. But if you are having all these 500 that are discussing issues of local nature, people are going to be talking, because there is pressure that I should be seen talking on the floor of parliament. I'm going to talk about my primary school. I'm not saying a primary school is not an issue of importance, but that is how far the debate will go. And then someone will say, how do I also go? I know of one who said, when the point of order was raised, if the member was in order to begin discussing things which we have already resolved. But how do I go home without saying anything? What will my people say?
Oh, so it was a matter of just saying something?
Exactly. So you must be seen saying something. Now, if we are to go back to that, then you have to go back to the basics, that this parliament has to be separated. We must have a lower parliament and maybe an upper parliament. Or we are going to have regional parliaments and a national parliament to get back to that debate. But as long as you have all these 500 men and women in parliament, that debate is not going to get back.
For me, I would not look at it in terms of that. Before we start talking about the numbers, first talk about, are you sending a fine person? Are you sending quality?
But
it's like being in class.
How do you choose the quality?
It's like being in class.
How do you choose the quality?
First of all, let me first build my point. Many of the guys that we are talking about of the sixth parliament, these guys who were in the parliament of 1962 and so on, these were guys of, they used to call them Junior 2. Junior 2. Yeah. Junior 2 was an equivalent of, I think, Senior 2 today, if not Senior 4 today. But when you bring a person of Junior 2 then and a university student of today, in terms of reasoning and presentation, you see a big difference. The other one is much more better organized, even in terms of articulation and so on. So the whole thing also goes to what kind of education are we offering today?
Yeah, because but
the incubational centers also have issues. But you send, who are the people who are handling this? Some of these people that end up becoming leaders, how were they packaged upstairs? I want to tell you something. Go and look at the Hansard.
But you see, just even before you get the Hansard,
presentation on the floor of parliament, somebody cannot sustain an argument of even 2 minutes before making before making broken English.
Yeah, but you see, they'll look at all these things and tell you English is not their problem.
That is trying to hide away from the reality.
We don't eat English.
And that's how we have killed. And that's how we have killed quality. When you start hiding away.
I agree with you that we may not tag the quality to English. Not just English is also important because then it's assumed
it borders on the kind of rules that we make.
The school. But now you also look, when you do that, I think something was discussed about that the type of people we are sending to parliament is that the intention, so again, of those people who are going to parliament, most of these people, many of them, have spent all their money and they are going to parliament to look for money. Now, if you are going to parliament to find any opportunity that will get you have that money, then the issue of discussion and quality of discussion and quality of leadership may not apply because yours is, you are now becoming, it becomes like a trade. You have to raise more money because there's going to be another election. And that's why in most cases when
but how does that compromise your conscience from doing the right?
No, you talk about conscience now.
If you vote your way into parliament, then even your conscience is...
Does that affect the quality of your work?
No, maybe if I can...
How does that affect the quality of your work? Yes, I may be a money-minded guy, but But when it comes to paperwork, people should see me doing the right thing.
If I can come in here and look at the agenda, they say conscience configurates one's mind. Sivasi, whether you are knowledgeable, you're smart upstairs, you spent 500 millions in a campaign. Therefore, when you go to Parliament, you are preoccupied of how do I get back my money. It is a departure from the past.
You sold a house, you sold a property, you did all the things, you took a loan. You took a loan.
But now, in the olden days, as a village, you'd say, Jagenda is a smart guy. We want him to represent us. And they would sit and fundraise. I will say, me, I'll give you a bicycle. The other will say, me, I'll do this.
I'll give you posters. I'll campaign for you. I'll do this for you.
By the time Jagenda is elected, he has no debts. I mean, that is why you're going to concentrate on the work.
You are the people's property.
Yes, the people's property. But now here, you've mortgaged your house. So you see, so by the time you are there, you are really preoccupied on how to get back your money. But also the other issue why the level of really debate has gone down. I think societies have I don't know whether we have really lost focus that societies are no longer ambitious. That during in the 60s, you'd look for the creme de la creme in your society, so that perhaps when he goes to Parliament, he can easily be picked as a minister, or even he can easily be picked as the next leader. That was the understanding.
I think, Jagenda, you have held several interviews. All of us, you were journalists, you have held several interviews, some of the MPs. Where you can interview somebody, and all what he's telling you is irrelevant.
No.
And the person
I entirely agree with you. I entirely agree with
daft
you.
person.
I entirely agree with you, Ndugu Sibasi.
That's what I'm talking about.
And that's why I asked the question, who needs to apologize to this country? Because the way things are actually moving, we need to get to some point. We'll sit somewhere, and then we'll reconsider many of the things that we're doing today. And somebody will need to come out to actually apologize to us. What you're saying is actually right. That a minister stands and he reads a budget to the nation and says, these are the proposals of government for the next financial year. We're planning to do this and this and this and this and this. Then you get out and interview a member of parliament. And they do not know what they're telling you. And you will think that, yes, they appropriated, they debated, they discussed. Then you get a member of parliament saying,
you were in the budget committee, you discuss, tell me what, and he cannot articulate.
If you can hold it there.
He doesn't know what he passed.
If you have a whole presidential candidate who is actually even threatening to really win an election, who could not differentiate between fiscal and fiscal policy. Now, would you blame that on the man? When you get down to the MPs, what will happen? So it means exactly, and it means that we've at all levels we've lowered the bar. Because look at 1960, the people that were competing for power. That is the DP and UPC. Look at the leaders they had, those who are competing for power. Come to 1980. Look at the people who are competing for power. Come to 1996. Look at the people that were competing for power.
And today.
And now look at today. At the people really who are competing for power. So this is what I'm saying, that I believe really we need again to raise the bar. And how do we raise the bar? I have a feeling that really we should come up with structures. Because, like, for example, when you look at the US and the UK, the fact that they have two major big parties, that the party subjects you to a process that will bring out the best. The party has come up with a process that gives them chance to bring out the best. That even by bad luck, if you get a Trump, then the system, the institution that have, the systems that have been built will eventually phase him out even after one term. So these are because all I'm saying is that what we are going through actually is not a mistake. It's not a mistake. It is the process. Because just like a child, as it's beginning to walk, it is going to fall, it's going to make mistakes. So that is how we are doing it. And I like these mistakes we are making, because it's through these mistakes that we shall come out stronger. We don't expect that it will be a smooth and clean path to perfection. No. Yes, this is what
I'm actually, the system bit of it is actually very good, but just even looking at the internal political settings, that we have political parties. Now, DP had this, that they could nurture their own young Democrats, bring them there, and, you know, raise people to a level where if somebody stands and they say that's where they are. Uganda People's Congress, for example, had this. You know, the movement in its infancy, of course, also had this, that when somebody stands up to actually say something, you'd really feel that we have material. Now today, somebody just comes and imagines. Just look at the wave that is happening now. When you go back 2-3 terms ago, you would find that people would just look around and say, where has the wave, where has the cloud now gone to? People actually just looking at the clouds and say it is now a key. And somebody just rushes, now this person is maybe formerly DP and all this, and says it is now Chisumulizo. Then they all rush to Chisumulizo. Now Chisumulizo is either broken or it has dropped on the floor and anything, so it's now the umbrella. And everybody just swings and says it is now the umbrella. And maybe others are reconsidering themselves and saying, had I known, for example, look at a man like Asiano Wadri. Now, Kasiano Wadri is not one person that you can actually say he does not qualify to be in that house. You can't say that. Gerard Kafureka Karuhanga, you can't say he is one person who does not qualify to be in that house. He's exited. There are quite a number of people who have actually now gone out of the house, and maybe they are regretting the bin watchers. Had we just held on to that umbrella, maybe we would be there. And these are the issues here. So to me, I'm only thinking, what needs to be done with the political parties themselves? Are we very interested? Can we do it? Can we get there if we will build that kind of quality that we want from our legislators?
But if not political parties, then we also need to have these systems of negotiations. Politics, I think, to benefit, to have the better benefit of it is that you need to trade. But when we are now leaving everything to individual merit, that a person will come, in the past where people will say, I think we can, if we take this someone, it will be our best. And people will come to say, look, we have this. And either a political party or a community say, can you represent us in this? We think you can do better. And the person will say, but I don't have the resources. Like, let's put resources together to support you to go. And this person will be responsible. When he makes a mistake, you will be able to call him back to order, but this is not what we wanted you to do for us. Now, the blocks could also do that. Say for us from Teso region, we want to have a ministerial post. But for you from Lango, we also want a ministerial post. So can we agree? We give you this and we take this.
Win-win situation.
Yes. So that those trades could, and I have seen now this happen well in Kenya, where you are trading even within the political systems. And that's when you are trading, you are giving in your best. A person who is not going to be an embarrassment in the future. That we want a president, we want a vice, you want a prime minister, we want a speaker. So when that happens, then you know that you have matured in politics. But that can only happen when you have strong political groupings. You have strong opposition groups. You have strong, but also seasoned politicians who can do the negotiations across the counter. Now, this is what we are lacking.
I want to tell you that just we were talking about the 11th parliament that is coming in. Yes, we have had issues with the kind of quality of debate with the 10th parliament, but you are going to see the worst quality of debate in this 11th parliament. If we make an assessment, like the way you are guiding the debate to be, of people who have won elections, who are coming here, you are going to be shocked.
No, I think
you just watch the space. You are going to see scandals there.
Well, I just want to say this because maybe in some parts, But I just want to go to concentrate on Western.
Did Odongo to come through?
No, Odongo to lost.
Odongo to
Yes,
lost.
yes. I just want to concentrate on Western Uganda, and specifically I go to Ntungamo municipality, where you see Gerard Karahanga losing actually to his arch rival Yona Msinguzi. They have actually, since the creation of that municipality, they have been competing. Yeah, and I think the people of Ntungamo maybe this time said, look here, let us give him a chance. But equally, Yona Msinguzi is at the level of Gerard Karahanga.
Exactly, but we talk about the replacement.
Yes, so that is really a replacement that is up to the task. This is something I just wanted us to look at. That even when you look at, let's get to districts like, of course, even when you go to the Renzo region, even when, yes, they lose a person like Dr. Chionga, but the person who's coming, even if he's from the opposition, but you see he's actually up there because he was a lecturer at Makerere University.
How did Chionga perform?
No, Chionga lost actually. Yeah, then you come to, when you lose somebody like Centenary, you have equally somebody like Firigo who's coming in. So you see, these are some of the issues that, what is the replacement? You should have a replacement that is up to the task. But again, just like I said, is that when you have a principal, and he wants to be the only person to shine, that means he will suffocate talent. He will suffocate these other people who are vibrant, and that's why you find that people actually who are going to come will always be people who are not up to the up to the task. And that is why we need to build institutions. The institutions we need to build, even parties are institutions. I remember I read somewhere that the late Kwame Nkrumah made 3 wills. And the first will that he wrote in the 1960, then the second will he wrote around 1964, but the last will he wrote the year he was actually overthrown, and that is the will that's up. And in that will, he actually left every property he had. He gave every property he had, that in the event that he dies, every property he had should be given to the party, that is CPP. That every property he has, he should give it to the party, because he realized that the party had given him that platform to serve Ghana and serve Africa, and therefore the party should be empowered, should be built so that it can also empower more people. So as long as we don't have that spirit of saying, let me work and I put an institution. You see, great men come up with great ideas, but institutions make those ideas live forever. Yes.
Well, now that's very important. It gets me to another point of discussion here, which entails the Tojikwatako debate that was in Parliament. Now, when we went to the NRM party primaries, the casualties that we saw in there were attributed to the Tojikwatako debate. Now, you'll notice that the likes of Simeo Soboga and several others were being said they were punished for Okujikwatako. Now, even those who fought so much against Okujikwatako, who fought so much against the Tojikwatako bit, have also now lost in this particular election. What effect, or what was the impact of Tojikwatako Ndugu Sibasi to the result and everything as it's playing out now? Because many people thought, by defending and saying, we'll defend the Constitution, it is NRM, you're muzzling this thing because you want to make way for President Museveni. We refuse, we refuse, we refuse. You remember Odonga Oto coming like, you know, a rainbow, a Jack Norris and all the things. You wouldn't imagine that these people would actually be paid this way. What has been the impact of Okujikwatako and Tojikwatako into this election that has just ended?
Well, they might have done something good by standing to their positions, but that cannot be the only issue on which you should be assessed on to come back to Parliament. There must be other issues outside Tojikwatako where they failed to deliver, and they're being punished. They were punished because of those other issues. Then there are those who ought to have delivered on the other issues, but society is punishing them for betraying the country of Tojikwatako.
But what betrayal was that? Because the Constitution itself talks about its amendment, and if any clause in the Constitution or article in the Constitution allows for an amendment, it can be betrayal. All these did not form or write this Constitution. They got it here.
But again, I think there is no single factor that actually explains why people lost on both sides. For example, in northern Uganda, of course, we realize that most of the MPs were against the Okujiko Atako. But now, what is happening in northern Uganda, and actually why you see now NRM sweeping in northern Uganda, is because northern Uganda is trying to conclude the Konyi issue. All the people who benefited from the insurgents, those who were voted, because in courts they were fighting for their people, so those who came to leadership just because of the conflict in northern Uganda, actually they are getting rid of them. Mao was a force during the Konyi War, but now ever since the Konyi War, the guns went silent. People like Regan Okumu, Norbert Mao, and the likes of Professor Gengalatigo, now they have become irrelevant. Now the people of northern Uganda are now interested in services. Who is that member of parliament who is going to lobby for services? Not this one who is going to say, me, I'm there to make sure that I articulate our problems. We are suffering. Now it's not about the suffering. That is gone. So say, how do we recover? So actually now the message the people of northern Uganda want here is recovery. How do we recover very fast? How do we catch up with the rest of the country? So all these people that, because when you look at Odongoto, how does Odongoto come to parliament? Odongoto's coming to parliament actually was an event at Makerere, where him and a group of students, I think, abused the head of state, and they were arrested. So, and by that time, you find that the insurgency in northern Uganda was at its peak. So now, these people in the north, they had a mindset that maybe the system, the NRM regime, was against them and perhaps wanted to wipe them out. So I said, now, if this young man can stand up against this man who wants to wipe us out, then he should be the right person to vote. Yes, you get it. Should be the right person to vote. So that is how he comes to parliament. So, but now the people now the tide has changed. They are looking for people who are building bridges. How do we build bridges with the rest of the country so that we can also benefit, so that we can also develop? So you realize that everybody who has been a beneficiary of the Konyu in these particular elections, they are being phased out. Yes. Steadily moving out. Yes. I'll come to you, Ndogo Mututa, and talk about this issue, for example. Now, when you look at the NRM and the party primaries that we had, now everybody thought that the NRM party primary was a mock exam for the general elections. Now, one striking thing that has come out of this election is we have had an election, not so many in our history, both at party level and at national level, where you go to the polls and everybody does their voting, people walk away, and you do not hear Kiboko riding from one end to the other and doing all the things. And even the people who do not believe in the Electoral Commission or the system are the first people to say it has been peaceful. It's been okay. By and large, we've had it a very good one. We've you know, the people that wouldn't expect to say anything. We thought the NRM party primary mirrored to us what we were expecting. And all these drums of violence were actually hinged to the past experience over that. But look at the NRM, where you had contestants like Honorable Nakayenze Galuwango in Imbali and Lydia Wanyoto, big sister. Now, one is Mama Mbala and the other is big sister. The issues that you saw there and the troubles, and to just declare, it actually took them about a month or so to know who actually won in an election that was not secret ballot, but in an election where somebody had to come and stand behind a candidate, and it took forever to actually just declare. You go to Rushenyi, where Honorable Rukutana was, and the issues that played out there, but at the end of the day, when the party declared otherwise and said, this is our position, then the people said, that is your position as the party, this is our person. Talk about Elioda Tumesio, for example, who goes and the people refuse you at that time, where you would actually think
In an open system, everybody would say, this man is a minister. What about if he looks at me and the other day he goes through? How will I look at a minister? But now it comes to a secret ballot where the minister will never know that you voted him or you never voted for them. Looking at those issues, that had the NRM given Connie Galwango the flag, she would be another tally. Had they given it to Kabasharira, she would be another of the tallies, and several others. What do you have to make of this?
I think the system needs to work out a way of handling some of these issues. Because, for example, most of these issues, much as they became controversial, but one could easily find out the truth. Because these were the exaggeration of the numbers. And of course the local people knew what exactly was happening. And no wonder most of these cases that were hotspots then have not been issues now, because people voted and voted as their wish has been from day one. But like we said, I think the political parties need to have mechanisms of addressing some of these issues, because now if you injure Nakayenze for the sake of promoting Wanyoto, then the problem is that that conflict continues even beyond the individuals into their supporters, but also affects the performance of that political party. And it was not only in the movement, of course, it was across the board. But also, I think there must be a better way, like we said, of identifying these leaders and also mentoring them. If people are conflicting, you have one position, you are not going to have both of them in that position. Then what do we do with the other person who also has interest in this position? There must be a way of placement of the cadres at whichever level. Say, now for you, you may not be able to do this, but you can do this in the meantime. And so, for you have maybe not been able to perform in this position, but you can do this. So that there's harmony within the political party, but it's also the internal mechanisms of addressing these issues more so than allowing them to escalate into full open confrontation. One said, we had cases where one was declared today by the same commission, another one is declared tomorrow for the same flag. Then you get confused. Who do we take and who do we leave?
With the ballot books.
Yes, so that escalates and then derails even the motivation of the party members and the participation. And you see, once you divide that one, then you open up for opposition at whichever level, whether you are opposition or whether you are in a government.
Lydia Wanyoto lost to Connie Galwango, and Lydia Wanyoto's brother Paul Wanyoto also lost for, I think, Mbale North.
Yeah, no, they call it North City.
North City, I think. Then you come to Kampala here, where Margaret Nantongozua loses, and the son also in Kampala Central also loses.
But also the husband had also lost.
The husband lost the primary.
And he's still coming as an independent.
And still coming as an independent for the elders. So that's where we get, because the election is actually next week on Wednesday. Yes, next week on Wednesday. So
actually, not Wednesday. It's Monday.
Oh, it's on Monday. Yes, the election is actually on Monday, not Wednesday. Yes. Monday will be 18th. Yes, it's actually on Monday for the special interest groups. Now, just look at those. Did you think that Paul Wanyoto could have lost because of Lydia Wanyoto's influence, or what?
It is also possible, much as because Paul was standing on FDC ticket.
He pulled it actually from, I think, Ashom.
Yes, but also there was the NAP person who came in. So other than the red wave, there was also that division, because if it was a home affair and well articulated, it's possible that Paul could have taken that. But even some people were saying, instead of having this confusion, I think let's support Paul. That was the thinking. But now you realize that this family politics also, and we have had a number of especially in this particular election, we have had a number of families that have really brought in this. But it is good to show that this family has leaders, but it's also good to be strategic, that you don't send out every one of you, because then the resources, the time, and even the planning becomes a problem, because you are running a fire brigade. This one is here, that one is here. But if you gave out one candidate, to also give the time for the family to plan, but also allocate resources equally on how to support a candidate.
Sebastian, let me pick your mind on this particular one, where we've seen members of parliament coming to parliament for just one term, and they can't defend their next term. They've become the Trumps of Uganda. Not so many American presidents actually fail to defend their term. In the United States, it's a taboo, it's abominable for you to contest for the presidency and you can lose your re-election. Now, look at Honorable Nabakova, Honorable Simeon Soga, look at
Centenary,
look at Mugati Gwabata Mnyagwa, Kavaziguruka here, you go to Kasozi, you go to Katoluwama, you go to Sempala Sajaliabene. Many of these have actually failed to defend the constituency, and you would think that when somebody sails through, they actually have all this magic. Now people look at you, and just 5 years later, you actually can't come back to defend the constituency. What do you think explains that? Where you have people, look at Connie Galwango, for example, that she comes the first time she's voted, she comes the second time overwhelmingly voted, she comes the third time amidst every other problem, but the people stick to her and say she is ours, she's voted, and those things. What explains that? Because it has happened to those in the ruling NRM and even those in the opposition.
Those who come one term and they fail to make it in their second term, two things may be involved. Either their relationship with the people, turns out to be a bad one. They fail to maintain the touch. Others, they fail to deliver on the promises that they give the people. You know, the worst thing in politics is to lie, the people, to be a liar. The moment you start lying, the electorate, yet you are there, the electorate, you are their leader, and you start lying to them, it becomes a big loophole that you cannot defend when the time comes for you to go back. Your own political aid or your own campaign managers will be the first people to attack you, because they cannot defend you before the electorate. So at the end of the day, the electorate say, she's a liar. We cannot deal with lying.
Lying is part of what actually defines this democracy that we're talking about. And like Akol said, the roles of a member of parliament are clear. But yet again, people demand beyond just that. Because even when you explain to them what a member of parliament does, is they know that you will do that. You will do that. Talk about a man like Katoluwama, for example. What lie did he make? He told them clearly, I don't know what I'm going to do there. Just send me there to eat. He ate. And he came back and said, please, people, I actually ate. Let me go back and eat with you.
That one was
never lied to them.
That was a honest person who told them. So there was no reason for the electorate asking him, you promised us this, you never delivered. It was a social contract between Katoluwama and the electorate that I'm going to eat, don't expect anything from me. And they were like, it's okay. But somebody to tell the electorate, yes, he knows the roles of one MP, allocation of funds and appropriation of budget, stuff like that. But he starts promising, even where he said that I'm going to build a bridge for you, where he cannot even build a bridge. I'm going to build for you a hospital. I'm going to build for you a tarmac road. Are those the roles of a member of parliament?
No,
so somebody runs away. Just tell people, I'm going to lobby for you ABCD. Once it fails, it's okay.
You're coming in here?
Yes, I'm coming in here because there is no single factor that really can explain why really somebody
share the multiple factors. Because there is no single factor.
No, the factors are so many, because we can't explain that really why somebody, because there are people really who are good, they are articulate, they have worked for their people, but they are unfortunate that maybe in that particular election, the tide is against, they're swimming against the tide. So that happens. But I think I'll take you now to the spiritual world, because you are a pastor.
I'm not a pastor.
Yes,
I'm a Christian.
Are you a Christian? Somebody will say, maybe in one way or the other, they are falling short of God's favor. Yeah.
The monetization of politics.
So we can say in one way or the other, they are falling short of God's favor. And maybe that is why they really because the leadership comes from God. So that can explain that. But as the other point Sivasi talked about of promises, I just want to say that at times we need to sympathize with MPs. They can make promises out of excitement. You've just been elected. You've never been a personal assistant to a member of parliament. Actually, even some of them are elected. The day they come to swear in is their first day to step in Kampala. So, I mean, you have that kind of rosy picture.
Others process passports when they are member of parliament.
So you have that rosy picture of being a member of parliament. Now, when you get to parliament, you hit by reality that actually what you promised people is far from what you can do. Then the other issue is that you can also make promises out of pressure. Maybe I come into a constituency where Jagenda was a member of parliament. But before Jagenda came in as a member of parliament, he was lucky, or when he was a member of parliament, he was lucky that he befriended development partners. They brought projects to the constituency. So when I dislodge a person like Jagenda, because I want also to show that I can work like Jagenda, so out of that pressure, I make promises which are actually not attainable. So there are so many reasons as to why members of parliament make actually promises which are not attainable, which are not achievable. I'll give an example. In Wendera, where actually Honorable Chibanzanga lost, one of the promises Honorable Chibanzanga made was that once I'm elected, Wendera will be made a district. And now he is elected, even when he migrated from Kasese to Wendera Wamba, Wendibujo, he's elected to parliament. When he's elected to parliament, luck is on his side, he's appointed minister. And now even expectations rise that now he's even a minister, so it will even become easier for him to lobby for the district. So 5 years, nothing happens. So he
meets the reality.
So these are some of the things that come out.
It became a baptism in fire.
He meets the reality.
Yes.
Ndugu Mututa, we have about 15 minutes to stop this year. We will just stop this year because we need to again brace ourselves for the morning. For the later morning, we expect that the Electoral Commission will do the final announcement before 4 o'clock. That's the official time. But news coming in to us from the Tally Center is at 9 o'clock. Of course, there will be another pronouncement, which will be the 8th pronouncement, and that will be the second last of those. So somewhere anywhere between 9 and maybe 3 o'clock, we will have definitely after 2 o'clock. Justice Byabakama says he wants to ensure that by 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock thereabout, he gives his final verdict, final counting, and of course he will tell us. Remember, Justice Byabakama is now the man, the man of the moment,
the man to watch,
the man of the moment, the man to actually watch. Yes. He's the man to watch, and we are just waiting for him. Remember that even as results keep coming in and as the tallying goes on, these are still candidates, and they still have that protection. They still have everything that a candidate actually has. They are still there, and so don't just walk into Nancy's home. Don't just look for Katumba or to say tugende tunywemu msajja wachikoze. No. It's not about kunywamu. Let me pick your mind in about 5 minutes because we are racing against time. We will stop this at 4 o'clock. But
Uganda's Trumps, you know, the one-term members of parliament. Kasozi comes taking over from Simbwa, I think. He takes over from Simbwa, he comes with that euphoria, and he only does one term.
I think there are 2 terms.
Kasozi, did he make 2 terms? Kasozi just came in recently, because when he took over from Simbwa, then Kabaziguruka comes, he hits out Ruhindi, and he can't defend the constituency. Katoluwama knocks out a man who was there forever. A man who was there, exited, technically brings a daughter, and you know, he comes back again to reclaim it. To some point, Rubaga South had actually become another property that Ken Luchams would even cede to anybody. Now Katoluwama comes with his Solidar. He fails to defend Solidar Buganda Buhum. You got to Mogati Gambata moves from the division, he comes, and he also fails to defend the constituency. Honorable Judith Nabakoba comes, fails to defend it. Judith Babidie just actually absconded, left it, and went to whoever it may concern. Got to Sibeo Nsubuga, he fails to defend the constituency. And several others. Sechigos, Sajali Abene, fails to defend the constituency. What happened in Busiro, I also want to know. Sematimba was also kicked out?
Yeah, Sematimba was also kicked out.
Sematimba was also kicked out. Now, Sematimba also comes and he fails to defend the constituency. These issues, now you know, you come, you have an opportunity, 5 years, then you fail. What explains somebody failing to defend a constituency, and we have people who have served 3 terms, 4 terms, and are still carrying on?
I think in most cases it is the first to do with the person, the individual himself or herself, but also the understanding of the dynamics, understanding your people, those you are serving. In most cases, sometimes when people become members of parliament or when they assume leadership positions, there is that temptation of trying to claim or that you understand these people so much, and then you can take decisions sometimes without even consulting them. But we have seen most of the people who have sustained these constituencies, and we have seen, I think we normally refer to Kenya and which other country, where you find a member of parliament has been in parliament for the last 30 years. And they still, of course, even the American Congress and
the UK Parliament, the guys have served for 30 years.
Yes, so you find people have been there, but the most important thing is that these people learn their people, what the people want, consult them, work with them, because like, by the way, Luchams was not, there isn't much that Honorable Luchams did in that constituency, but he had learned the art of his people, what they exactly wanted. Because such a constituency, an urban constituency, they are not looking for roads, they are not looking for schools, but they are looking for someone who will be there for them when they want them. And Luchams at some point was just being funny, but people were voting for him. Now, like we said earlier, sometimes these amendments in Parliament, also the operations of Parliament has one way or the other affected the people, the representatives to Parliament, because there are this question said, is that what we told you to go and do? Did you consult us even before you did that? When you did this? So all these questions come up, but the most important thing is to understand what your people want and try as much as possible to involve them in whichever decisions they take. And I've been telling people when it came to this issue of Koni Nakayenze, maybe she should not do the best thing for the political party she belonged to, but that is what the people wanted. And at the end of it, you have to take a decision between the people those who voted for you and the political party to which you subscribe. Which one takes precedence in your life? Either you are going to support the political party position and lose your people, or you are going to remain with your people, but you also offend the leadership of the political party. And each decision has has consequences.
Has consequences.
Exactly.
It's the reason why we have a rebel group in the parliament of MPs.
Exactly.
They don't want to dance with the tunes over the NRM caucus.
But it is also on both ends. Sometimes your people have to understand certain things, but also the leadership in the political parties also have to understand certain situations for their members, so that there is a harmonious way of resolving issues. Otherwise, if the two are opposed in the direction, then what will be left is suspicion and of course a reprimanding of the members of parliament.
Okay, we closing this down. We are winding up, and I just think that well, lots of things have continued to happen. Just looking at the parliament, and of course now those that have exited and those that have come in. When you look at all the things, Iman Cecilia Gwal, of course, returned. Those are there. I want to look at that parliament where you have Cecilia Gwal, the other persons are also coming in, of course, and of course now the young breed. Let's look at the blending itself. And maybe finally, I want to pick your mind on what do you think President Museveni's cabinet will look like going forward?
No, I think, of course, it will have new faces because as somebody made the light joke that the voters have helped him to reshuffle. But I just feel that he's going to have actually many new faces on board, and given that Northern Uganda has really voted convincingly or has really voted overwhelmingly for NRM, I think they stand a chance this time round of scooping key positions in the next cabinet year.
But now, do you, like, for example, for me, I am suspecting that some of these ministers who have been thrown out at the constituency level will be brought back into cabinet. But because of course it's not, we cannot maybe throw all of them out at a go. But if you are in the President Museveni's position, do you now appoint new ministers in areas where people have thrown out all the ministers, or including voting those smaller votes for you, or you are going to reward those who have voted overwhelmingly for you, and leave some of those that have thrown their own out because this is a political chip. If I've given you people a number of ministers and you don't want them, and elsewhere people are crying for me to give them ministers, what do we do? But I think, in all fairness, some of them might be brought back in the ministries, but also maybe look for ways of trying now to balance off where people have voted for you overwhelmingly, and where people have thrown your people out, but still have to balance and work with everyone.
Okay. Sibasi, your final comment on that as I let you guys go rest and come back in the morning.
I look at the cabinet. He's going to make his cabinet based on regional balance, because I look at many of his colleagues have been ejected. So all he needs to do is to look at the regions, how they performed in these elections, and I think that's where he's going to draw. That's where he's going to base his decision. If a region really did not participate, did not offer what he wanted, he just gets to know that he has no support there. And so I think he's going to be very careful on how he's going to make this cabinet, but I do believe people like Jim Huez, those will have to come back in his cabinet. People like Otafire, those who have to bounce back, and very few historicals who will bounce back, but I do believe about like 65% of it will be new faces.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ndugu Sibasi. Thank you so much, Ndugu Akola Mazima. And thank you so much, Ndugu James Mututa. I'll just request that I let you guys take a break until morning, because it is D-Day, and everything that we brace ourselves to doing, I shall close somewhere thereabout after everything has been announced. We promised you that the Elections Hub will be open until the final declarations, and of course, like we've told you, Parliament has taken shape, and tomorrow, rather this day, we'll start doing the countdown of the hours to that time at 8 o'clock in the morning. We just want to thank you so much for being part of this, but reminding you that what has come in so far, we have a deficit of 10,000 polling stations of the 34,000 polling stations. So that means the next announcement will come to us in just hours away at 9 o'clock, when Justice Byabakama Mujenyi will tell us. But so far as everything stands, nothing has changed until now. President Museveni is still ahead or leading with a 61 point.
It's no secret that ICT makes learning easy.
The strides made in our field could not be possible without it.